Hi guys, it's me, Chatter HD, and welcome to the qualifying watch along for the 2019 Bahrain Grand Prix, where at the first proper track in 2019 that we've been to on the calendar, we are going to find out who does genuinely, around again a proper track, who does genuinely have the pace, and I cannot wait to find out in about an hour's time. That's when qualifying starts, in about an hour. Hopefully you guys, no matter where you're in the world, are having a great Saturday. Thank God here in the UK, it's a lot warmer than it was 2 weeks ago when the first race happened. Of course, early in the morning in the UK. But no matter where you are in the world, what time it is, hopefully you're doing well. And hopefully you are excited for qualifying here today at the 2019 Bahrain Grand Prix. And I'm looking forward to this session. I think we're going to see plenty of surprises and plenty of things that maybe we weren't expecting. And yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing qualifying today. But before I get into previewing the teams and talking about how I think they're going to do today, let's first go into the results of, I think, I have it. No, I don't. Hold on a minute. Let me just pull it up. I accidentally forgot to post it in my OBS software, so I'll just quickly grab that. Sorry about that, bit embarrassing. But Ferrari again at the top. Charles Leclerc, fastest of all, from Sebastian Vettel in second, and the two Mercedes again quite far off pace-wise, just like they were in practice 2 and also practice 1. So it does suggest that they're not looking good for qualifying. Of course, I think they are going to be closer. I don't think Mercedes are going to be 6 to 7 tenths of a second off. I don't think that will happen. I think they're going to be a lot closer. And if you do think they're going to be that far off, I think you are, well, you're going to be sadly mistaken. I think they're going to be, if they're not on pole, it's going to be at most a quarter of a second. They're definitely not going to be that far off, in my opinion. Of course, the conditions from practice 3 to qualifying are massively different. Practice 3 held in bright, hot sunshine, which is what Ferrari likes. But cooler conditions is, of course, what the Mercedes car does like. Let me just get the results quickly. Also, though, Red Bull not looking that great in practice 3, but I think they were running a different program to top teams. Let me just put that on screen for you guys, show you what I'm talking about. Results of practice 3. Again, sorry about not posting my graphic of the results, but I did actually do them. I just forgot to actually post them on the screen, which is a bit annoying. That quickly. Go. Here are the results of practice 3. Leclerc fastest from Vettel second, Hamilton third, and then Bottas in P4, Grosjean 5th, Hulkenberg 6th, Norris in 7th, Verstappen 8th, Sainz 9th, Kvyat 10th, Raikkonen P11, Gasly P12, and then Magnussen 13th, Stroll 14th, Perez 15th, Ricciardo 16th. Now, maybe thinking, oh, again, Ricciardo maybe sandbagging like he was in practice 2. He was not. And I'll get on to why later on in the build-up to qualifying. Albon 17th, Giovinazzi 18th. Then, of course, the two Williamses at the very back as usual. But now, let's get into previewing how the teams are going to get on in today's qualifying. For Mercedes, first of all, I think they're pretty much nailed down to be the second fastest team in qualifying. I don't think they do have the best car like they did in Australia. I don't think they can be made favourites for pole position. I don't think they can be made favourites. If they did get pole, it would be an incredible lap or an incredible job by the team, also the driver that did it. But they don't have the best car for qualifying today. Their car does look slower than the Ferrari for sure. Watched Practice 2 with us yesterday, which, by the way, if you haven't checked out the Practice 2 watch along, it's in the description down below. Yeah, Ferrari have the better car. Their car looks a lot better around this track than the Mercedes does. And that's not really a surprise because we expected that. So, not a surprise that Mercedes are behind Ferrari. Maybe a bit surprising the gap. But as I said a moment ago, that gap will close between those two teams. No doubt about it. Next up is Ferrari, who, without a doubt, are the favourites for pole position today. They have the best car at this track. They have everything that you need to be good in Bahrain. Their car looks brilliant in the slow corners, very good in the fast corners. They have the power to get onto pole position. Having power at this track is very, very important, especially in qualifying. And Ferrari do seem to have everything you need to have the best possible qualifying. So I think Ferrari are definitely the favourites for pole position. It's going to be a bit tighter for them, I think, to get the front row. I don't think it is an absolute guarantee they will get the front row. I think there is a very, very, very good chance they'll get pole position. But for the front row, not a guaranteed thing as of yet. I think Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas will be a lot closer to Ferrari in qualifying than they were in practice 3 or even practice 2. And of course, we'll see later on how they do. And by the way, when it comes to my predictions for where I think what I think the top 3 or 4 is going to be, I will get onto that later on. And that is where Nib, who of course joined me yesterday, that's where Nib will join me for today's qualifying watch along. Next up is Red Bull. If Red Bull absolutely do the best they can, they will end up on the 3rd row of the grid. They're not going to be able to compete with the top 2 teams. They don't have the speed in qualifying. And to be honest, if the drivers don't get it right in qualifying and make errors, you could see Haas, for example, end up on the 3rd row of the grid. You really, really could. So Red Bull do have to be mindful of what is behind them on the track, more so what's ahead of them. Because I don't think realistically they can compete with top 2 teams. Hopefully they can get closer in the cooler conditions, but I don't think they will actually be able to. But for Red Bull, in terms of being able to compete for the top 3, that's going to come in the race, I think. I don't think that will come in qualifying. The best they can do, if the top 2 teams don't have any issues, best they can do is 5th and 6th. I don't see them getting into the top 4 like they did with Max Verstappen in Australia, of course. But before I get onto the midfield, let me know, guys, right now in the live chat, who do you think is looking the best out of the top 3 teams going into qualifying? Do you think Mercedes can be a lot closer to Ferrari in qualifying or even get pole? Do you think Ferrari are the favourites for pole position and even a front row lockout? And for Red Bull, can they do any better than P5 and P6 on the grid? Or could they even lose that if Haas, for example, are surprisingly quick? Let me know right now in the live chat, and I will read out as many comments as I can in regards to that. But before I do, I just need to let you guys know, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, as I will be doing the watch-alongs or doing a watch-along tomorrow for the Grand Prix. So make sure to subscribe for that content coming tomorrow, just like this video. Don't forget to subscribe. Bottom right of the screen, you can click subscribe right there, or click on my channel name, go to my channel page and subscribe. And also, very importantly, hit the notifications bell so you are notified as to when I upload. But I'll quickly look in the chat to see what you guys are having to say, as qualifying is coming up very soon. Some people in the chat saying that their audio's lagging. On my end, it is absolutely fine. It might be It might be on your end. I don't know. But there you go. If I do sound laggy, then let me know and I'll try and fix it in build up. So, you know, once we do get to qualifying, it's all fixed. Hello to Ronan Brady. Great to see you all here. Build up to qualifying. And Duke Gaming, is Mercedes fast or not? They are like 128 in FP2 and now 130. What do you think? They're not going to be pushing that hard in practice 3. The thing with Mercedes, I don't think they're necessarily slow. They're slow compared to Ferrari right now, but I don't think they are necessarily slow. I just think they don't have as good of a car as Ferrari do. But if you look at the race pace that was done in practice 2, the race simulator, Mercedes had the better car. So they don't have a slow car. Their car is pretty quick, but it just isn't as quick as the Ferrari at the moment. And also, Nib saying in the chat, in regards to the lap time they did in practice 3, you can't really look at that because much different track conditions and weather conditions, temperature than what it is going to be in qualifying and also Grand Prix. So it doesn't really matter. So you really should not look at practice 3 and the results because they don't mean a great deal because again the conditions are not representative of what is going to happen in qualifying and the race. Right, I'll read out a couple more comments, then I will go on to midfield. Simon Cragland says, and this is absolutely true, the battle between Vettel and Leclerc will be epic today. It will. Those two have been very close this weekend, and I think Charles Leclerc has a good chance of pole position. Very good chance. Whether he will get it or not, I don't know, but he really does have a good chance of getting it. And we'll see later on if he can get that pole position. Ronan Brady saying there, I think Vettel will be on pole. We'll see later. We'll see later what he can do. I'll get onto my predictions later, and also I'll bring Nib along, get his as well. But I'll move on now to the midfield. Starting off with Renault, 2 drivers, and I'll get onto this later on. The 2 drivers weren't that happy with the car in practice 2, and they weren't really that optimistic, even though the car of Hülkenberg in practice 2 was up in P5 and the car pace-wise was looking pretty good. But the drivers aren't that happy with it. Now, again, we'll get onto that later on because I do have a slight piece on it and more of an opinion on it. But Renault, I will say, are looking better than I expected. I didn't think they would be, say, more consistently in the top 10 like they have been with Hülkenberg. I didn't think they'd be like that. I thought they'd be more so around where Toro Rosso are, you know, P10, P11, P12. I thought that's where Renault would most likely be, but they're a bit higher than that, and that is a positive. That is definitely a positive after the Australian Grand Prix, where quite frankly, pace-wise, Renault were a bit disappointing. So hopefully in qualifying today, they can improve on their qualifying performance in Park, because they do need to try and strike back against teams like Haas, who of course were very quick in Australia, and I expect Haas also, as I'll get onto in a moment, to be very quick here in Bahrain. Next up is McLaren, who also have surprised me. They're looking very good this weekend. They've always had a car in the top 10 in all the practice sessions. In practice 2, they looked as though to have, say, the 6th best car, probably at the worst, and at the best, at times, the 5th best car. They do look to have a good car, and that is a surprise, because I thought Bahrain would be a weaker track for this team than Australia, but it seems as though around a proper track compared to Albert Park, McLaren are looking better, and that is a positive. I'm hoping they can translate that into qualifying, because that was one thing last year. You'll remember that were good in the practice sessions, but then once it came to qualifying, they really dropped off. So hopefully they don't drop off again like they did at times last year from practice to qualifying, and hopefully they can translate that type of pace to qualifying. And I think they do have a good opportunity of getting a car into the top 10. I'm not sure if they absolutely can, because it's going to be very tough competition with the Renaults, the Haases, you got the Alfa Romeo of Kimi Raikkonen, Kvyat, the Toro Rosso. It's going to be tough, but it is very possible, and a lot more possible than I previously thought. So looking good there for McLaren. Next up is Alfa Romeo. I have to say, they have had quite a bad weekend. Pace-wise and grip-wise, really, the car doesn't look that good compared to, say, a Haas or even a Toro Rosso around this track. Of course, they had that disaster in practice too, where both cars did very little laps compared to the other teams. Some kind of issue with the car. So that was very, very disappointing, and it also did cost them plenty of track time, which is vital to have, especially at this kind of track, to know, understand the tyres and how the tyres wear on a qualifying lap, and also in the race simulations. So Alfa Romeo have missed out on quite a bit of data, but even when they have been out on track, the car doesn't look that nailed to track. I still think with Kimi Raikkonen, they're going to be competitive and be right there for the reckoning to get in the top 10. But to be honest, I'm not sure they can get into the top 10. I'm not as optimistic for them as I am with, say, McLaren. I think those two teams will be very close in terms of pace, but yeah, Alfa don't look to be that good at the moment, and that is a bit of a worry. And hopefully they can be just a bit quicker and be kind of where they should be at this kind of track, because they should be, at the very least, getting a car into Q3 with the car they have at this type of track. Next up, though, is Haas, who I expect to have the best car from the midfield teams today. They, in qualifying especially, always have a great performance. They are always at their absolute strongest in qualifying, just like they were in Albert Park, where they qualified P6 and P7. And car grip-wise, after watching practice 2, I know they didn't end up being the fastest midfield team because Hülkenberg was P5 in the Renault, but grip-wise, the Haas looks absolutely fine, has great straight line speed, and looks nailed to the track. And I think the Haas car is going to be the team to beat in the field today, and I do expect them to be having a car on the 4th row of the grid. Whether they'll lock out the 4th row, I don't know, because if one of their drivers makes a mistake, which, let's be honest, their drivers do tend to a lot, then maybe you could have a Renault or a McLaren sneak up onto the 4th row. But honestly, Haas should lock out the 4th row of the grid. I think their car will suit this track better than, say, a Renault or an Alfa Romeo or a McLaren. They should be the fastest midfield. And hopefully they are, as they continue their impressive start to 2019. Next up is Toro Rosso. Kind of similar to McLaren. They're in that battle for getting a car into the 10. And a kind of, to me, a dark horse to get into the top 10. Daniel Kvyat is, for me, the one to watch in qualifying today, because he has the practice sessions, especially in practice 2, of course, is a lot more representative. He was right there on the edge of the top 10, and really all weekend has been in that kind of position, and he has just been quietly going about his business, putting in some good laps, showing good speed. I think Kvyat is a dark horse getting in the top 10 today, and I wouldn't be massively surprised if Kvyat did get into the top 10, because this track does tend to be a good track for him. Historically, he has had, I think, good results here, or good speed at this track. So I'm expecting Danny Kvyat to have a good session today. And of course, Toro Rosso last year, Honda were fantastic. So don't be surprised if another surprise comes from Toro Rosso like last year. Don't be surprised at all. They can do it. They just need to make sure they get that lap absolutely nailed. And maybe be a bit closer to teams like Haas if they are going to get that high up on the grid. Next up is Racing Point. Now, Racing Point this weekend have been quite slow. They've been a bit slower than I expected. I thought they would be in, say, a Toro Rosso-like position on the edges of the top 10, maybe far into the top 10, but they haven't been that way. They just haven't really got themselves together this weekend. They've been consistently 13th, 14th, 15th, in that area where we expected them to be for the first race. And it's surprising that they're not really at it. They have been trying new bits on the car during Friday, and hopefully in qualifying they can show a bit more speed. But yeah, don't really know what has gone on with this team this weekend. They don't really seem to have that much speed in the car, which is surprising because if you go back and look at this team's history around Bahrain, normally Bahrain is one of their better tracks, but this weekend it looks as though they're, say, 8th fastest, 9th fastest, and really not looking that quick, and it's a bit of a surprise for that team. And of course, last of all is Williams, who are going to be at the very back. But guys, in the live chat, let me know right now, who do you expect to be on top in the midfield battle? Do you think Haas or Renault or maybe Alfa Romeo? Maybe they'll improve. What do you think also about teams like McLaren and Toro Rosso? Can those teams surprise? Let me know right now in the live chat, and I'll try to read out as many comments as I can. And then we'll move on to the next topic, which is to do with the battle at the very top coming into qualifying today, and really looking at what certain drivers had to say going into this intense battle in the Sakhir Desert. Yeah, let me know in the live chat right now. What do you think of the midfield teams? And I'll read them out over the next 5 minutes, and then move on to that topic. So let's see what you guys have to say. Simon Cragland says, I think Haas is slightly quicker than the Renault this weekend, but it is very close. So Haas best of the rest. Justin says Renault will be top, closely followed by Haas. Renault need to really be best of the rest because their performance in Australia just wasn't good enough. So they really do need to be, you know, the P7, P8 type of position. Hopefully for them, they can get into that type of position. Francisco, who is a Kimi Raikkonen fan, says Alpha had a good practice session in the morning. I think Kimi is not focusing on lap time. Kimi will do well, I hope. Kimi at Bahrain, the reason I keep saying with Kimi that I think he will get a good result is because he normally at Bahrain is good. He's had I think the most amount of podiums out of any driver at this track. I think it's 8 podiums. He had a podium in 05, 06, 07, 08, 2012, 2013, 2015, 2016. Very, very good at this track. And I just think he is going to be in that top 10 battle for the qualifying and the race. But Alfa just haven't really shown like they have the car to really complement him with, you know, his speed at this track. They haven't really shown to have that quick of a car, even though Alfa should be better at this kind of track than they were at Melbourne, honestly. Because I think Melbourne is a track that doesn't really suit the characteristics of the Alfa Romeo car. Right, let me comments regarding the midfield. Tonka Toy Truck says Haas will be best of the rest. Seven Suspect says if Hulk goes 2-0 up on Daniel in qualifying and the race tomorrow, it's not looking good. Well, I'll get on to Daniel Ricciardo in a minute because, well, let's put it this way. He isn't having that great of a time at Renault at the moment. Nicholas Kerban says Nico Hulkenberg will be the man to beat. He has been very competitive this weekend and again has been better than his teammate, just like he was in the practice sessions and the follow-up to, or in the run to qualifying and the race. So again, Hulkenberg looking good. Gaming says Haas, I think with Grosjean will be best of the rest. Danny Eduardo, yep, it is. Says, I hope it's Norris, but I can't see it happen. Realistically, Lando Norris will not be best of the rest. But he could get into the top 10. There is a possibility of that. And Dexter Hall says, I say, Renault and Haas are equal in the qualifying. And Ronan Brady saying that he thinks Ricciardo will eventually get it together and start being competitive. Hopefully so. But now I will move on to getting into some more topics in the build-up to today's qualifying session. And we're first going to start at the very top, and the battle, of course, for pole position between Ferrari and Mercedes. And mind games have continued to go on this weekend. By the way, if you didn't check out my video, which was an insight into the mind games that Mercedes play against Ferrari and their rivals, it's not in the description, but it is on my channel. I uploaded it on Tuesday, so make sure to go and check that out. But mind games have been continued, or are continuing, this weekend in Bahrain. Now, of course, Ferrari yesterday were 0.6 and 0.7 of a second ahead of Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas. Now, we thought Ferrari would have the better car here, but we did not see that coming. And the comments were very interesting from both teams in regards to what they think will happen in qualifying. And I just want to read it out to you and really show what their mindsets are coming into this session. First off, this is Sebastian Vettel after practice 2 yesterday, and he has a very interesting comment. He says, I am not entirely happy. It has been quite a tricky day because the track was very slippery. It definitely was, with him spinning and also Raikkonen's. He also says, and it was difficult to always extract the best from the tyres. We were on a difficult strategy compared to the other drivers and teams. That's why for tomorrow, we still need to improve. I think we have some more potential in the car that we have to unleash for qualifying. So, right there, Vettel not happy, or not, as he says, not entirely happy with the car in those conditions yesterday. And from what he said, improvements still have to be made. And if you did watch practice today, you would have seen that even though Vettel and Leclerc were very fast, they were still making some small mistakes which could be costly in qualifying. So, not entirely happy there for Vettel, but I think he should be a bit happier, to be honest, because the car is looking very quick. But it does show you that maybe he knows what is going on with his rival team. This is what Lewis Hamilton for Mercedes had to say after yesterday. We had some issues with the balance of the car, but we've made improvements for FP2. At the moment, it looks like Ferrari, or the Ferraris, are ahead. So we have to keep our heads down, keep working, analyse things tonight. This, of course, this quote was to yesterday evening. Analyse things tonight and try and come back stronger. I think as we get to qualifying, everything will be a little bit closer, but it's going to be a tough battle. So I think what I can really see here is, even though there was a 0.6 and 0.7 of a second gap from Ferrari faster than Mercedes, it's clear to see here that Ferrari think the Mercedes are a lot closer to closer to them than what was shown in practice 2. And Mercedes know they can be a lot closer to Ferrari. Now, maybe that's down to Mercedes not running the absolute maximum or as high engine mode as Ferrari were. That's what Matteo Binotto came out and said yesterday, that Ferrari were in a higher engine mode compared to their rivals, and that's why there was that gap. So maybe that is why Ferrari were over half a second clear. But interesting to see there that both Ferrari and Mercedes think the gap will be a lot closer. Ferrari are confident, but they know Mercedes will still be there. But Mercedes, as it says there at the top, quietly confident, and they know they can be a lot closer to Ferrari once it gets down to the nitty gritty in Q3. So I think those two quotes really show that even though Ferrari have been on top all weekend, don't think it is going to be a walk in the park for them to pole position or the front row, because it's not going to be. The gap will come down a lot for qualifying, and of course, compared to practice 1 and 3, the weather conditions and the temperatures are a lot different to practice 1 and practice 3. So expect a lot closer of a qualifying session at the top than maybe you guys were expecting. Now, I'll come to you guys in the live chat to see what you guys think, and what do you think, say, the gap is going to be between Ferrari and Mercedes? Think it'll be a lot closer than 0.6 or 0.7 of a second? Do you think Mercedes could still get pole position? Let me know in the live chat. I think the gap will be a lot closer than 0.6, 0.7 of a second. I think it will be at most, say, 0.3 of a second, but I don't think it will be over half a second. I don't think Ferrari have that much of a gap to the next team. They definitely do have the best car, Ferrari, but they don't have a dominant gap like that. I think it is a bit closer than the practice sessions have suggested. Let me see what you guys have to say right now in live chat in regards to the gap at the top for qualifying between Ferrari and Mercedes. E7 Suspect says 3 to 4 tenths of a second. Crystal Racing says Ferrari front row by 0.2 of a second. Automate says 0.2. Nicholas Kerban says 0.110. Yeah, I think it's going to be 0.2, 0.3 of a second. I don't see it being, 0.6 or 0.7 of a second. Ferrari do have the best car at this track. It's clear to see that, but it's not going to be that big, because you have to remember that Mercedes do tend to sandbag quite a lot, as many a times in 2016, and also Lewis Hamilton is the best qualifier on the grid, so he will be a lot closer. With also Bottas, who has been very, very strong in Bahrain this weekend. Let me see what you guys have to say. Tonka Toy Truck says Bottas is my pick. And someone else, WW, saying my money is Hamilton. You can never deny or doubt Lewis Hamilton, even if he doesn't have the best car. You can never deny him the possibility of winning a race or getting pole position. So good, and is for me the best driver on the grid currently in Formula 1. Automate, I think sandbagging is over. This is not Barcelona testing. All the teams sandbag in practice. Let's be clear on that. They all sandbag in practice. Not anywhere near as much as testing, but in practice they're not running anywhere near as quick as they could be. They're running a lot closer to their maximum performance in practice sessions than they are in testing, but they're still not at the absolute maximum they could go in practice sessions. So I think Mercedes have been slightly sandbagging. All the teams have been, because they can all definitely go faster. If you know what I mean by that, then you'll know what I mean. I don't think I really need to explain what I mean by that. Let me read out a couple more comments and then I'll move on to the next topic, which is to do with Renault, which is quite interesting. It's quite interesting a topic, honestly, because even though they've had the pace, apparently, things are not looking that good at the team. Not looking that good at all. Automate says, well, if Mercedes was the best car here, he would go with Valtteri Bottas. Yeah, Bottas does look pretty strong. And I think on race day, he will be very strong. No doubt about it. But I think it's time we move on to the next topic. The next topic is to do with Renault. Now, in practice 2, Nico Hülkenberg was in P5, and in practice 3, Hülkenberg was in P6, and Hülkenberg, despite not being massively happy with the car, has, in terms of the times, looked pretty good. But one person who is really struggling is Daniel Ricciardo. Now, if you watched our FP2 watch-along yesterday, you would have thought that Daniel Ricciardo was maybe concentrating more on the race simulations and trying to get a balance for that. But no, it turns out that Daniel Ricciardo is really struggling with the car and is lacking quite a lot of confidence in the Renault. And, well, this weekend has not been at it as of yet, and hopefully he is for qualifying. But as I'll show now, Daniel Ricciardo not looking that good going into qualifying and is looking to be right now in a weak position, to say the least. Says, I struggled this afternoon, of course, he said yesterday, and we were off the pace from where we would like. We conducted a lot of work to understand more about the car in the garage, and then we did the long run, which was a little better. Aren't as competitive as we should be, and obviously I want to be quicker. Now, what's interesting about this is you could argue that he's only saying this because he is struggling for confidence, gripping the car, and he's been quite low down in the time so far. But also, Nico Hülkenberg has come out and said that he really is not liking the grip of the car at the moment compared to where he wants it to. Now, that's either two things. Either one, drivers have really high expectations of what they want the car to be for this race, grip of the car, or they were running more aggressive with their fuel than other teams, or more aggressive with their engine modes than other teams. That is what it says to me. I'm going to go with the first option. I think these two drivers really want to be climbing up more towards the Red Bull area of the grid. Don't want to be stuck in the midfield, and preferably want to be at the front of the midfield. I think they are unhappy with how the car is, even though it does seem to be, at this track, a bit more competitive than it was in Australia. So, interesting to see what they're thinking and saying, the two Renault drivers coming into qualifying. I thought they'd be a lot happier, or at least Hülkenberg, I thought he'd be a lot happier, but he's also not that pleased with the Renault car. And Ricciardo, as you can see there, not pleased at all. He is not confident going into qualifying and was again very low down in practice 3, and it's been like that for the entire weekend. So there is some kind of issue. I saw actually on Renault Twitter that he has one issue with the car is undisputed that he doesn't like. So that's one issue with the car, but I think it's the overall car that Ricciardo is struggling with. But guys, let me know in the live chat after hearing what Ricciardo has to say here, and also with Hülkenberg saying what he had to say after practice 2. Do you honestly think Renault can be best of the rest today? Because after those comments by those drivers, I'm not too sure they are going to be. They don't seem to be that happy with the car. Normally, if you're in, say, Hülkenberg's position that you've been in this weekend, you'd be quite happy with the balance of your car, but he hasn't been happy with the balance of his car. So I think not looking, say more internally for Renault, not looking great. The times Hulkenberg seem to be there, but the car doesn't really seem to amaze anyone or really show that it does have absolute pace. So let me know right now in the live chat, guys. Do you think Renault are struggling a bit more than they've maybe showed? And for Daniel Ricciardo, will he get these issues sorted out for qualifying? Let me know in live chat right now, and then after that, after I read out your comments for a couple minutes, I will then move on to my predictions for qualifying, and then I'll bring in Nib and get his predictions for qualifying in say 5 to 10 minutes time. Let's see what you guys have to say. And again, don't forget to subscribe, guys, because later on I will be doing a review of qualifying live at 7 p.m. UK time, and then the race watch along tomorrow at 10 past 3 UK time. So don't forget to subscribe for that content. Let me read out some comments in regards to Renault, also the interesting comments coming out of Renault at the moment. Mafia says he likes Ricciardo, seems like a cool dude. He doesn't believe in his own BS like most F1 drivers. If I mean, yep, I do know what. Nicholas Kerben saying Nico Hulkenberg is just pure talent. So Gaming says Daniel did something similar to Alonso did in 2018. I was thinking that slightly, maybe because he's been driving an Adrian Newey Red Bull car for so long, maybe he isn't used to this lack of downforce compared to the Red Bull. Maybe that's what it is, but I don't think it is that, honestly, because best drivers tend to just get in the car and drive the wheels off the thing, no matter if it has good downforce, okay downforce, or no downforce at all. But Ricciardo does seem to be struggling this weekend. Right, let me find regards to this. Astro Steve is saying the last thing he wanted to hear that Daniel was confident. Well, there you go. There you go. Hopefully he can respond. Fine, but with these comments that Daniel's coming out with, I'm not too confident in his performance, because normally if Daniel is going to have a good qualifying, he'll let you know of that. He won't hide his say happiness or say his satisfaction in what he has. But when he definitely does not have a good car, he lets you know in a Fernando Alonso way. Not as dramatically, but you know what I mean. Things are not going right for Daniel, and he comes out and says that it's not going right for him, then you know it really is not going right for him. Hopefully he can improve. Qualifying. Mafia saying Ricciardo will figure it out eventually. Dexter Hall also saying I'm confident Danny will. Hopefully he does, because I want to see him in top 10 battle with his teammate and the Haas's and probably the McLarens and also the Alfa Romeos. But now I am going to move on to my predictions for the qualifying session that is about to start, guys, in about 17 minutes time for the 2019 Bahrain Grand Prix. As there's a picture of the Renault. I don't know why I put that in there. Now I will get into the prediction. So on pole position for me will be Sebastian Vettel, because he is very, very good at this track. As it says there, he has 3 pole positions at this track and always has been strong. Bahrain always has been very competitive with whatever car that he has had. I think this weekend, or in this qualifying session today, he will get pole position, because the Ferrari car is without a doubt the best car at this track. And because he is a better driver, I think at the moment, confidence-wise, than, say, compared to his teammate, and also is better at this track compared to his teammate. I think Sebastian Vettel will get pole position for the 4th time in his career at the Sakhir circuit. Also, Ferrari are looking for their 5th pole position at this track since we started coming here in 2004. Second place, I'm going with Charles Leclerc. The reason is because Ferrari have the best car, and I think they have enough of a gap to Mercedes to lock out the front row of the grid. I think Leclerc will be in second because I don't think Leclerc has, say, the speed Vettel does. I do think it'll be close in qualifying. I think it'll be within a tenth between two drivers. But I think Vettel has just enough speed to beat Charles Leclerc in qualifying today. Of course, again, just like Australia, Leclerc is looking for his first ever pole position. And also, Ferrari are looking for their 4th front row lockout at this track. They had a front row lockout in qualifying here in 2004, in 2006, and also last year in 2018. Get it today, they will have their 4th ever front row lockout at this track since 2004, which at this track, that is a very, very record. But in 3rd place, I'm going for a bit of a surprise. I'm going to go for Valtteri Bottas in P3 because Valtteri Bottas has always been very good at this track. I don't think he's ever been out-qualified by a teammate at this track, which is a very good record to have, and also has out-qualified Lewis Hamilton in 2017 and 2018, when they have been teammates, of course, at Mercedes. And again, this is a very, very good track for him. Had pole position here 2 years ago, wasn't that far off pole position last year when he qualified in 3rd. And I think will be the better driver in qualifying. I think he has a better way around this track, and I think is good going in qualifying. Of course, the power of the beard is really doing him well, and I think it will power him to P3 ahead of his teammate. But if Mercedes do get pole position, that will be their 6th pole in Bahrain. That's if they do get pole. I don't think they will, but if they do, it'll be their 6th pole position here in Bahrain. So there you go. Those are my predictions for the 2019 Bahrain session. I'll move this picture and now bring in Nib, who of course has been waiting to come on. Nib, how are you doing, mate? And what are your predictions then for qualifying? I've gone Vettel first, Leclerc second, Bottas third. What are you going to go for?
I'm doing very well, thanks, and thankfully my throat is a little bit better than last night. But as you were reading out your predictions, I'm like, oh, for crying out loud, I've gone Vettel on pole. I just think he is superb at this track. Even though we've seen Leclerc ahead in FP3, it's not really representative of the conditions that we have for qualifying. So I'm going to go with Sebastian Vettel taking pole position. In second, I'm going to go with Charles Leclerc, simply because, Ferrari do have the best car around this circuit. It's undeniable. We've seen it all weekend long that they quite comfortably have the fastest car. I don't think it will quite be 7 or 8 tenths or whatever it's been in the majority of the sessions. It will be closer, but don't be surprised if Leclerc is very close to Vettel in this qualifying session. And also, like you, in third place, I think Valtteri Bottas will take third place on the grid for the race tomorrow. He's always been very good around this track, certainly one of his better tracks, along with, say, Austria and Russia. So yeah, I expect him to out-qualify Hamilton for the 3rd year in a row around this track and take 3rd spot for the grid tomorrow.
Yeah, I think Valtteri has a good way around this track a minute ago, and I think he will be better than Hamilton. Also, I'm going to go Hamilton 4th and then Max in Gasly in P6. And that's pretty obvious though. But right now, guys, with about 10 minutes to go until the start of qualifying, let us know right now in the live chat who will get pole position, who will lock out the front row, who will be in third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. And I'll try to read out some comments in qualifying in just a moment. Electro Knights asks, do you think Mercedes' party mode will help them in qualifying? Yeah, it will. They'll be closer to Ferrari than 0.6 a second. But I think Ferrari will look out the front row. Right, let's go through. So, Nicholas Kerban says Vettel on pole from Leclerc, second, Hamilton third. Crystal Racing says Vettel, Leclerc, Hamilton. Hugo Matthias says Leclerc. Xbox player says Hamilton in pole, Max Verstappen second, and Vettel third. Dexter Hull is very confident about Lewis Hamilton getting pole. He says Hamilton pole, Leclerc second, Vettel third. Mark Tor says Leclerc in first. Astro Stevo says Bottas on pole from Hamilton second, and Vettel, Leclerc, Verstappen. Hopefully Danny Rick, Hulk, and then Gasly qualifying. Ronan Brady says Vettel on pole. And also VJ says Red Bull looks slow this weekend. I think I don't think this weekend they've really concentrated that much on the qualifying simulator. I think they know they're going to be at best on the third row, and the race is where they'll come alive. They'll be very strong in the race, but yeah, compared to the top two, they are not looking that competitive. Who knows? Maybe they'll show us something unexpected in qualifying. Mike says Hamilton and pole from Bottas second, and Vettel in third. Amal, Vettel on pole from Leclerc. Well, Leclerc second and Hamilton third. And what other have Ronan Brady says he thinks that Verstappen might be for qualifying or and Solo in the chat saying Max got in a new car and won race. Talking about Daniel Ricciardo and Renault. I just want to ask Nib, what do you think about Ricciardo's struggles this weekend? I just read out a quote from him yesterday. Not confident at all, and has struggled all weekend. And we found out earlier, or I found out on Renault Twitter earlier, that one of the issues has is understeer. Do you think he can, with the short time left now, qualifying, do you think he can really solve that many issues that he does have with the car?
Quite simply, probably not. It looks like it's just not been a good weekend for Ricciardo, and usually he's very strong here at Bahrain. In the Toro Rosso, I think it was in 2012 or 2013, he got sixth place in qualifying here, so he is certainly no slouch around the circuit, but it looks like he struggled with the car all weekend long and still struggled with the car during FP3. So who knows? We could be proven wrong in the first qualifying session, but it's very possible that Ricciardo could be facing an early exit here in qualifying.
Hopefully not, because I want to see the guy in the top 10. People like Raikkonen, Hulkenberg, Grosjean, Magnussen, people like that, because I can have a good race, but it doesn't seem though the guy has any real confidence or grip in the car. And if you don't have confidence or grip in the car at this track, you're going to struggle, because it's all about having a nice balance at this track. If you don't have a good balance at this track, you will either pay for it in a bad qualifying position, or if you can have a great qualifying, you will then drop back in the race, because you have to have nice and consistent balance car. And it seems as though Daniel does not have that, and that's a bit of a shame. Also, Hulkenberg, even though he has been quick this weekend, he really has not been that confident either. So I think Renault, going into this session, I think internally they know they can do a lot better than maybe what they've been showing. But as a team, they don't seem to be that confident. A bit weird. You'd think they'd be a bit confident. Go. Um, Fiction. People saying my audio is low. Try and raise that slightly. I'm not going to raise it too much because if it does, then I'll come through. But we are
Yeah,
now
apparently a
5
few
minutes.
people were saying that the audio was really patchy, which is weird because on my end here, listening to you, it's absolutely fine. So something weird going on.
Yeah. On my end, it's absolutely fine. Sounds absolutely fine. The mic in same place as it is. Sound, all the settings have not been touched and been left the same, and have been raised also to accommodate, on louder audio. But for me, the audio is coming through absolutely fine. So it might be an issue for you guys watching because I'm looking at my mixer here and my voice is coming through absolutely fine. So it might just be watching. There you go. Up to that nice picture of the rear end of the Red Bull. Yeah, we're now 5 minutes away from start of qualifying. Also, Nib, for qualifying, out of the midfield, who are you looking? Who do you think will be, say, the best of the rest? I've really gone with, say, Haas, and then also you've got what, Renault, McLaren, or Rosso. Who do you think in the midfield? Say, if you have a pecking order, who do you think is looking good in the midfield going into qualifying?
For me, Nico Hulkenberg looks very good. Out of anyone in the midfield, but then behind him has to be the Haas cars. They look very, very quick and very settled here as they have done um, very well. Sorry, like they have in previous times here. So I do think the Haas will be there, but then apart from that, I've got absolutely no idea.
Yeah, kind of the same with me. I think Haas are definitely the team I think to beat in the midfield. But after that, I have absolutely no idea who is going to be where. It could be, for example, Daniel Ricciardo. If he does get it right in qualifying, he could end up either P7, P8, or not P7, but say, in the top 10, back end of the top 10. But if he doesn't get it right, but only slightly not right, he can end up P16 or P17. It's that close in the midfield, and it's great to see, by the way, that the midfield is that close. That's what we want, is a close midfield. But quickly just boot up the running order a moment, and also, for a change, I will also put this. I'm also going to put and show you guys, if it's Q1 or Q2, because I know sometimes when you guys join, you don't know what exactly is going on. I'll just put that the top left. Change it, of course, once we get to Q2. But we are 2 minutes away from the start of qualifying. And if you are new to the channel and what we do here, so what I'll do is post as many pictures during the stream as possible. Of course, I can't show live footage because I would get copyrighted to hell and the channel would be gone in a matter of minutes, probably even seconds. So I'm going to show pictures, and me and Nib are going to do basically a radio style commentary of what is going on. So that's what we're going to do in the watch-along. Qualifying starts in just minutes time. Thing there, we just saw there Fernando Alonso. By the way, guys, there is news that Fernando Alonso is taking part in the post Bahrain Grand Prix test in Bahrain. I don't know exactly when he is taking part. I think it's AM in one day and then PM on another day. but he is testing the McLaren on Monday and Tuesday, or Tuesday and whenever the test does take place. By the way, running order along the bottom is not the live order. That's the order from FP2. So once we get a proper order in the first early stages of Q1, I'll update it to what it actually is. As qualifying is about to start in about 5 seconds time, and the green light has gone, and there you go, qualifying has officially started. I will, if I can, as first car on track is Robert Kubica.
Yep, Kubica.
Who interestingly yesterday said that he feels as though he's driving a completely different car to George Russell, and yesterday in FP2 he was 1 second slower. Now he was a bit closer, or quite a bit closer, in practice 3, but that's interesting that he says that. I don't know what's going on at that team, but that's a bit interesting.
Well, I can shed some light on that. Williams have confirmed that through all of their numbers that that car, for whatever reason, has less downforce than George Russell's car. They have the exact same parts on the car, very similar to like what happened with McLaren last year with Stoffel Van Dorn and Fernando Alonso, where Van Dorn's car had less downforce. So the exact same sort of thing is happening there with Williams, and in FP3 they're running a lot of aero paint to try and see what on earth is going on.
That's weird. I don't understand how that does happen, unless maybe it's a driver preference. I don't know, but I don't get that. I don't understand how that could possibly happen. Remember Van Dorn, he had his so long. He had his, what was it, for almost the entire summer. He had his issue.
Yeah.
So it's a weird thing, honestly, to happen. Who track very soon. It's a weird thing to happen because you'd expect the cars to be kept, exactly the same and in very, very nice order, but I don't know why that would happen. Did they actually find out why Van Dorn had less downforce?
No, I don't think they ever at least made it public as to why he had those issues. And also just with the audio issues, guys, that just seems like a YouTube issue. With the audio issues, so we do apologize for that.
Yeah. My audio is absolutely fine, and I've actually turned it up, not massively because I don't want to blow my mixer apart, but I have turned myself up and it looks absolutely fine to me, and it's how it should be. So there's no issue on my end. It must be. But we do have a lap coming in a moment, and it is Robert Kubica. And, well, we can already see that the Williams does look incredibly heavy compared to any other car on track. Comes to the end of the middle sector, does very slow in comparison to what later middle sector, but he's about to set his first lap time of qualifying. One good thing for Kubica that I think will be a positive for him, that he does like this track more, as he's going to pit for some reason. But he will like this track more because he does have better results, or has better way around this track. Of course, his first ever pole position was at Bahrain 11 years ago, so he should be better here, as Alexander Albon sets the first lap time of 1:31.1. That is not that slow at the moment. Not that great of a lap time, but not drastically slow. George Russell goes second on a 1:32.3, I think. So we've got 2 lap times on the board, but most people are not on the track and not setting lap times. We do have people, I think, about to go out on track. Lewis Hamilton there is about to go out onto the circuit, as I think Robert Kubica may have just done a run through the pits or a practice start. I don't know, but he's back out on track. No, that's George Russell. Looks like Kubica because of his helmet, but I think it's Russell. But I don't know why Kubica came back in. But
That's Russell on the screen.
yeah, that's Russell. I thought it was Kubica. Yeah, we have 2 lap times on the board at the moment as we're in the early stages of Q1. I'll post a different picture now. As Lando Norris on track in the McLaren. And McLaren, you have to say, Nib, looking usually quick this weekend, don't you think?
Yeah, it looks like they've gone a little bit under the radar again, and very much like Australia, didn't expect them to be quick at all. And boom, in qualifying, Norris just pulled it out the bag, really. And yeah, as we're about to see an onboard of Robert Kubica on his lap, which he did abort the Williams, just an absolute dog as he heads absolutely massively wide out the exit of turn 4. Much like Lewis Hamilton actually went wide through that corner in FP3, but of course a lot less grip in the sun of Bahrain. But it is night, so just shows you how awful that Williams is.
That does show you how bad the car is because he didn't clip a curb or put his foot down too early. The car that bad. That was just the natural grip of the car, just washed out off the track. That shows you how bad the car is. And I did notice at testing had an awful lot of understeer. The Williams car has a lot more understeer than oversteer. It just takes forever to turn in compared to any other car, and also is very slow on the gear changes. Say down gearbox because they're having to wait longer thing to grip up coming out the corner. And that shows really how bad the car is. As Valtteri Bottas is now on track on a set of soft tyres, we still only have 2 lap times on the board, but everyone is out on track except for the set a lap time. That is Albon and Russell. So, yeah, everyone on an out lap except for Verstappen and Gasly. Lando Norris is currently on a lap. I don't know where he is. Is that him in the background? I don't know.
He's just gone through the first sector split.
Yeah, the 2 Mercedes are coming to end of the middle sector, and they will be starting their first running queue just a moment. This is Norris. Let's see what his time is compared to Albon, who is in a relatively quick car and should be quite close to Norris in terms of speed. Norris has done a faster first sector, passes the
2/10 quicker than Albon in the first sector.
Good from Norris as I put the card there. Comes to the end of the middle sector. Passes another car. Yeah, this is miles faster than Albon. Looking very good. Pushing very hard as well is Norris as he now comes to the penultimate straight on the run to the final corner. Plenty of traffic ahead.
Oh.
That's a Haas. That is maybe going to be, well, we'll see later if that's a penalty, but that was definitely a block. And Norris goes
That's
faster.
Grosjean who blocked him.
Yeah, if Norris gets knocked out in qualifying, Grosjean will get a penalty for that, no doubt, if he gets knocked out Norris in Q1. But that was definitely a block. Yeah, see the replay there. Norris lost plenty of time. Norris probably lost almost a second, I would say, doing that. We now have Valtteri Bottas on a lap as he comes through to the middle sector. Only 0.2 of a second faster than Norris, but of course Norris had an awful final sector because of Romain Grosjean, so Bottas will go a lot faster. Hamilton is not as fast as Bottas at the moment, I don't think. Kvyat goes exactly a 10th slower than Norris. Bottas comes to the line and does a 1 minute 29.4.
As Ferrari is setting the screening times alight on my screen here. Lots of purple.
As Hamilton 2 tenths down on Bottas. Leclerc. A lot fast. 1 second faster
Jesus
by
Christ.
Charles Leclerc. 28.4. That is, well, we have not seen that so far this weekend. Here comes Sebastian Vettel. Where will he go? He will go slower by 0.2 of a second. But 1 second is the gap from Leclerc to Bottas. But of course, that's the only first run in qualifying. There are plenty of people still to set a lap time. Sainz has gone up to P4. We've got Grosjean P5, Ricciardo P7, Hulkenberg P8, Norris P9, Stroll P10. Magnussen has gone P5. We're watching the Red Bulls at the minute. Gasly 1.2 down, 2 sectors. That is a lot. Now the run to the final corner. There's a car. Who is it? I don't know. I thought that was a Toro Rosso there. By the way, Max Verstappen, I think, just went like half a second faster than Gasly in the middle sector as Gasly comes to the line and only goes 10th. I will say, is it me or has Gasly been very slow this weekend?
Very slow this weekend, and indeed, Max was half a second quicker than Gasly in the middle sector, but Max only goes P6 as we have Roman Grosjean under investigation for that little block on Lando Norris, who of course is car 4. But yeah, Pierre Gasly has been very slow all weekend long.
He absolutely has. We've seen a replay here of Norris. Oh, this is the replay of the block. Knowing the way the stewards work, if Norris gets through to Q2, Grosjean will not get a penalty. But if Norris does get knocked out, then Grosjean will get a penalty. That's normally how the stewards work. Qualifying, as I'm now going to update the order first time. So Leclerc fastest from Bottas, or from Vettel, then Bottas, and then Sainz 4. Albon on a better lap here. About 1/4 of a second up on his Kvyat. Plenty of drivers now, I think, are starting hit. And here comes Albon. Where will he go? It's going to be in the 30s. Yeah, it goes P11. That's a good lap time, I think, there from Alexander Albon. And in the drop zone, Kvyat, Giovinazzi, Perez, and the 2 Williamses. Bitzer half a second faster at the moment than George Russell. Here's a replay. I'll let you take a nib.
Yeah, Vettel with a double lock-up into turn 1. That is obviously not on the lap where he's gone fastest. Oh, sorry, second. He's obviously gone for another lap on those set of tyres and have a massive lock-up into turn 1. You can see the flat spots there on the Ferrari, but yeah, not what you want to be doing, locking up a fresh set of tyres into turn 1 and ruining your lap, as it looks like Charles Leclerc, he's coming into the pit lane, as now we just have about 5 minutes left in the first qualifying session, as now everyone will just be getting the final amount of fuel in the car, or even taking some fuel out and getting ready for the final runs of Q1.
Yep, they will. People at risk of getting knocked out: Norris, Stroll, Hulkenberg, and also Pierre Gasly. But this time it's not because of his team, it's because of him being that far down, as they're getting held up by Mercedes, I think it is.
Hamilton?
I think they weren't on a lap.
Yeah.
To worry about. I think they're just showing it because, Mercedes and Ferrari close on track. It is something to see. But in the drop zone is Kvyat, then Antonio Giovinazzi, who I have to say this weekend had direly slow in the Alpha. I know Alpha have had issues, but I noticed in practice too, when Giovinazzi did get out and do a lap time on the soft tyre at the end of the session, he was still slower than Kimi Raikkonen, who did his time at the start of the session on a medium compound. I'm sorry, but that is absolutely terrible. And has been very slow this weekend. He has been normally the first car, say, ahead of the Williamses. So he needs to get it together, Antonio, and hopefully he does. Final run in one. Let me just post a picture on the screen to show what I'm talking about, or what we're talking about with the Norris Grosjean block. I've just found a good picture. Green as they're ready to go out. 3 minutes left in one. So we've got this Lewis Hamilton on a lap. He can improve and go third, I think. Yep, he does. 3/4 of a second off. But I think it's clear to see, isn't it, Nib? Mercedes are slower than Ferrari. There is absolutely no doubt about that.
Yeah, it's quite clear, and losing the majority of the time in the first sector. Hamilton 4 tenths off Vettel's purple first sector. So very weird to be losing that much time in, well, a part of the track where it's one straight, uh, 3 corners, a straight, and then one more corner. So very odd to see Mercedes losing that much time.
To be honest, though, normally at this track, that's where they lose the most amount of time to Ferrari, because that's where you get all the Mickey Mouse slower corners where Ferrari have a car around normally. As I think Albon on their out lap, we have everyone.
That's Kvyat.
Oh, it's Kvyat. We have everyone on an out lap excluding Leclerc, Vettel, Hamilton, Bottas, Magnussen, Verstappen. So, people in the drop zone: Kvyat, Giovinazzi, Perez, Russell, or Kubica and Russell. The two Williamses will definitely go out. There is no doubt about that. But can Perez try with that racing point that has not been good this weekend, get it out of the drop zone? And can Kvyat get that car into a more competitive position where it deserves to be? Because they have been quite good this weekend, as Danny Kvyat now runs down to turn one, barking away. Has to try and go faster than Lance Stroll's time, but that time that you need to get into Q2 will go down a lot because the track does tend to evolve very quickly in Bahrain. Kvyat, end of the first sector. Let's see where he is compared to Stroll. It's going to be pretty quick, I think. Yep, 2.5 tenths. That's very good. He keeps up.
And just quickly, you were speaking about track evolution. Well, very interestingly, Max Verstappen has not gone out, and he's only 9 tenths of a second off of that drop zone. So who knows, if the track does radically improve, we could see Max Verstappen potentially out of qualifying, a repeat of what happened last race at Albert Park.
Yeah, we could also. Magnussen surprisingly has not gone out. And yep, everyone from 8th down to 20th is out on the track, and also Carlos Sainz in 5. Kvyat is about 4/10 of a second up on Lance Stroll at the moment. Norris and Giovinazzi have done an improved first sector. Norris is doing a very good lap so far, as Danny Kvyat, end of the lap, slightly wide but not too bad, opens the DRS and he will comfortably get into the top 10. P9, he does go. Now let's see where Lando Norris will go. He will definitely go faster than that. The McLaren's looking good this weekend. P4. Very, very good. And who is next? Antonio Giovinazzi. He will go faster than Hulkenberg's time. Only P12 though. He's at risk. Raikkonen has not improved at all, so he is at risk. Albon, P6.
P6.
Russell will not get out of the drop zone. There's no way. He does go 19th. Lance Stroll, 15th. Always at risk there. Gasly's in the drop zone again. Stroll is definitely knocked out now. Hulkenberg has gone up to 14th. Daniel Ricciardo is now at risk. Sergio Perez has slight traffic. And now runs to the line. Where does Perez go? He goes up to P12. Ricciardo and Gasly on a lap. Yeah, Gasly 13th. Ricciardo, P11. So, Antonio Giovinazzi, very surprisingly, Nico Hulkenberg, Lance Stroll, George Russell, and Robert Kubica knocked out in Q1. But, Nib, Nico Hulkenberg out and Ricciardo through.
Wow.
We did not see that coming, did we?
We did not. We were just speaking about in the build up to qualifying how Ricardo had been behind Hulkenberg all weekend long, and how I potentially seen Hulkenberg being best of the rest here. And wow, that is a major shock to see Nico Hulkenberg out of qualifying.
That is definitely a big surprise because he has been consistent faster than his teammate, but Ricardo just about got it together when he needed to. But as Hulkenberg and Ricardo have been saying, the Renault car hasn't been that great this weekend, and maybe that performance in Q1 kind of shows that. I don't know, but not good for Renault. And to be honest, unless Ricardo can do an amazing job in Q2, it looks as though it's going to be a worse qualifying here in Bahrain than it was in Australia for the team, which after pre-season I did not think would happen. As currently quickly updating order, so you have Grosjean P10, Daniel Ricciardo ended up in P11. He was one of the last to do a lap. Also, Pierre Gasly, P14. That's not going to cut it. And by the way, he has been consistently that type of position. Nib, do you think he could get eliminated from Q2?
I don't know. I don't. He might have got held up on his fast lap, but he has been struggling all weekend long. So I don't want to say anything too soon. But Gasly certainly needs to up his game in the second qualifying session here. But I must say, what a chaotic end to the session that was. We just had every single car going faster and faster, except for Kimi Raikkonen, which was weird to see. He was quite a bit slower than his previous lap time, but green times everywhere on the timing screens, and a major shock with Nico Hulkenberg. Not a good start for the season for Renault, that's for sure. They wanted to be fourth fastest, and they certainly are not there, as we see Lance Stroll on our screens storming off, disappointed to be eliminated from qualifying. But I must say as well that from fourth down to all the way down to 18th is separated by about 9/10 of a second. So fantastic to see the grid that close. And actually, if you go from Bottas in fifth down to Hulkenberg in to Hulkenberg in 17th, it's half a second. So the grid very close once again this weekend.
That is great to see. Of course, in Australia, we had a very interesting grid, very surprising grid. Luckily for Romain Grosjean, I think Lando Norris is through, and I think that saves his bacon. I think he is through now, without any trouble. Grosjean. It was definitely a block, but unless you get eliminated or your position is a lot worse in the top 10 shootout than it would be, you're not really going to get a penalty. That's normally how it works with grids. Quickly post this picture for you guys of Lewis Hamilton, who ended up in P3, but you have to say, Mercedes, they look miles off compared to Ferrari. Ferrari look like they're not on a different or at a different track, but it does look like a 100% Ferrari pole position. But if you are just joining us, Q1 has just ended and the eliminations are as follows: Antonio Giovinazzi, Nico Hulkenberg, Lance Stroll, George Russell, and Robert Kubica. So in a moment, I'll update the writing in the top left. Straight that it's Q2, but we are not yet starting Q2. We've just had Q1. It was a pretty interesting session, but with how the midfield is this year, and also with Pierre Gasly's poor pace, and also kind of Max Verstappen's not so great pace, I think we're in for a very, very surprising Q2. You could have anyone, except for the two Ferrari and two Mercedes drivers, I think, knocked out in Q2, we just saw a shot there of Fernando Alonso watching on the McLaren pit wall. And of course, McLaren, if you compare them to last year at this track, last year I think they qualified 13th and 14th with both cars. At the moment, they look as though they could end up both cars in the top 10. And as usual, when Fernando Alonso leaves the team, they suddenly become massively better. I don't know what it is with him, but the guy just has no luck.
I'm not sure if anyone's listened to the Beyond the Grid podcast that Tom Clarkson does with. He did it with Luca Di Montezemolo, whatever his name is, the old Ferrari boss, of course.
Yeah.
And he well, it's fair to say, absolutely roasted Fernando Alonso and said, you know, when he wins, it's all about him. What a fantastic job he did. But when we lose, it's all about it's the team's fault and all that. It was a very interesting insight to how Fernando Alonso works.
I'm yet to listen to it, and I definitely will, because I want to hear the stories that Luca has. Because of course he was in the Ty Binotto role of Ferrari in the 70s when Lauda was at the team, and became the boss of Ferrari after Enzo Ferrari. So I'll definitely want to and hear what they say. But I've thought about this, and with Fernando, he comes across to me to be a driver that just gets in the car and, you know, raises the wheels off the thing. He doesn't necessarily, I don't think Fernando really is that good at improving a car. I think, again, he really just gets in it, does the best he can, then the team try to do what they do. Kind of, he has a similar, I think, attitude to, say, Ayrton Senna. Ayrton Senna was kind of the same, where he would get in it, race the wheels off the thing, get the absolute most out of it, and then, you know, if the team can improve it, they improve it, so on and so forth. Yeah, Fernando, not one for improving a car. But yeah, I'll definitely want to listen to that once we get done with the Bahrain Grand Prix. But we are now about a minute and a half into Q2. No one is out on track, but I will say it's going to be interesting to see what tyres the top teams go for. Because will Ferrari go for the medium with the gap they have? I'm not sure they will. We'll have to see. If Ferrari can get through on the medium tyres and Mercedes have to use the soft tyres, that is a big advantage for Ferrari. And, well, we're still waiting moment for any track. Nib, at the moment, try if you can to read out a couple comments in the live chat.
Indeed, E7 Suspect says, I want to know what Fernando is thinking right now. Well, I think we've seen him thinking quite deeply on the McLaren pit wall there. Pedro Goldfinger is saying, Alonso is still a legend, though. Indeed he is. I've always liked Fernando Alonso. But, you know, some interesting, certainly, you know, we've always known that Fernando isn't exactly the most sporting teammate and is very, very political. But you know, it's interesting to see even more insight and hear some actual stories, proper stories by the team boss, well, the ex-team boss of Ferrari, no other. So the chat is mainly filled with people saying like Halam, saying the return of McLaren, McLaren are back.
Let's calm down before we say that.
Ultra saying Gasly replaced by Ocon. Well, I don't think that would quite happen, but Pierre Gasly not looking good so far.
But I just want to say, we do have most of the cars on track, and it looks like the two Mercedes drivers are on soft tyres. The red striped, of course. Now let's see what Ferrari are going to go with. I'm very interested because they may feel as though they can get through on a set of mediums. That'd be vital for the Grand Prix. See what they're on.
They're on the soft.
Yeah, look, yeah, it's a soft. So they're not going to take any risks. There you go. Leclerc, soft compound, and Vettel will be out. I think Verstappen is now on the track. I'm post a picture quickly of the fastest car the Bahrain International Circuit by a mile, I think we say. Ferrari, which is finally showing the pace that I saw for myself in testing. They're finally showing what they have. As Bottas a bit leery on the exit at the final corner as he starts his lap, opens the DRS down the pit straight, and let's see what he can do. Now, what the top teams will want to do is get through without having took too much out the tyres, but doing obviously a good enough lap to get into the top 10 shootout. As we're seeing Leclerc's, I think that's Leclerc's best first sector time from the last, because no one has.
Indeed.
Yeah, it is. Because no one has set a lap time so far in Q2 with 10 minutes to go. As Bottas see the middle sector, and I said this in the build-up, the Mercedes car isn't bad, it just isn't as good as the Ferrari. It looks fast, but just not as anywhere near as good as the Ferrari car.
Yeah. There's been a timing glitch there, but Bottas through the first sector set a 28.3, as Hamilton has just gone purple through the first sector with a 28.1. Bottas with a 38.2 in the middle sector, as the graphics on of FOM are broken at the moment, but the live timing is working at the moment.
It'll fix itself.
Very odd.
Just oh my, a lot of traffic. Vettel, Ricardo, but Bottas I think will just about make it through fine. Pick up a slight slipstream from the Red Bull ahead, which is Gasly, I think. As Bottas does a 28.8, that's not that fast. That's not that fast of a lap time. Raikkonen 29.4, not too bad. Kvyat 29.8. Grosjean 29.4. Got who's that? That's Magnussen. 29.0. That's a very good lap time. 29 flat, only a tenth or 2 tenths behind Valtteri Bottas. Lewis Hamilton goes fastest on a 28.5. 2 Ferraris are on a lap time at the moment. Norris goes P4. Who else have we got on a lap? I think
Charles Leclerc.
Alexander Albon goes 8th.
Charles Leclerc just set a 27.8 in the first sector.
That's a very quick first sector, as Carlos Sainz, by the way, went up to P5. So McLaren 4th and 5th at the moment. This is Charles Leclerc.
He was purple through the second sector as well, as we finally have the timing fixed for us.
Yep, we do, as he's now coming up to the final corner. Let's see what he can do. Hopefully no mistakes here through Charles. No, that's a mistake. He lost probably 2 tenths of a second doing that, I think. But still goes fastest by half a second. So that does show you the speed that the Ferrari does have. Pierre Gasly, P9. That's a terrible lap time. Max Verstappen, P5. Haas looking quite strong with Magnussen. Ricardo, P10. Vettel, only 6th. As Sebastian Vettel has made a mistake, he'll have to go for another lap.
In the middle sector, he lost 7 tenths to Leclerc.
We're probably going to see a replay of that in a moment. But, again, Pierre Gasly. What is wrong with the guy? He has not, at all this weekend, got hooked up. There's Leclerc's mistake, but he still went fastest. But I think there's, well, in Q2, there's probably a quarter of a second left. Leclerc's car, I think, at the moment. But I'll now quickly do the order. Ib, who do you think is at risk of getting knocked out? Definitely Ricardo, but yeah, Gasly again. Very poor Gasly.
Yeah, and I must say that, from P4 with Magnussen on a 29 flat, all the way down to Gasly in P12, it's separated by about 4 tenths of a second. So that whole sort of grid there's a whole bunch of drivers, Magnussen, Verstappen, Vettel. Vettel will improve, he just made a mistake or got held up in the middle sector. Norris, Sainz, Grosjean, Raikkonen, Ricardo, Gasly. They are certainly all in trouble, along with obviously Kvyat, Albon, and Perez, as we now got some replay of Alexander Albon going very wide at the final corner and having a little bit of a tail end moment there as he runs very, very wide indeed. As we've seen lots of drivers do, is there is a tailwind going into that corner, so that is certainly affecting the drivers.
Definitely is. Charles Leclerc is in the weighbridge as Sebastian Vettel go past and back to the garage and try. I think Vettel will go out again, definitely, because I wouldn't trust that lap time that he done. He's only 3/10 above the elimination zone, and you never know if he doesn't go out, the track could really ramp up in terms of grip, and he could be out. That's the way it sometimes works in football. So he'll want to go out again. Leclerc will not go out again. And I don't think Hamilton or Bottas will go out again. I think everyone from 4th down will go out again for another lap. Here is a replay of Vettel. Lock up into turn 10, I think it is.
Yep, turn 10. And he just said worst lap ever to his team. So we will see Vettel go out for another lap. That's the second lockup we've seen him make so far in this qualifying session.
Here's double lock up into turn 1 and another lockup. But I wanna put this picture on this certain car because it is nice to see this team looking good at the moment. You'll probably guess who it is, but here it is. The McLaren looking for the first time in a while positive for McLaren. Hopefully for them they can get 2 cars into Q3. That would be the best result they've had in a long time if they got both cars into the top 10. That'd be a great result for team, because if you look at the gap, from them to Red Bull, it's not that far at the moment. So looking good. McLaren as the Haas on track. I'm going to assume that's Roman Grosjean. Soft tyres. So the people at risk. Vettel, I think, will definitely go out again. But people at risk, Norris, Sainz, even though they have done a good lap time, they are at risk. Grosjean, Raikkonen, and then, of course, the people in the elimination zone have to improve. That's Ricciardo. Yeah, Gasly. Don't know what's going on with Pierre. Not looking good. And then Kvyat, Albon, and Perez. And here comes Sebastian Vettel on a fresh, brand spanking set of soft tyres. Can I just say as well, I don't know if people have noticed this, but is it me or do fresh tyres 2019 look different? Like they look very shiny for some reason.
Okay. Pirelli have got a whole new tyre model. They're a chrome layering, so that's why they look nice and shiny.
It looks it looks very nice. It does look very nice. And you can tell the difference, I think, now between a new set and a used set, because I don't think the set of tyres really show that shine. Sebastian Vettel, new set of tyres. So everyone is out on track except for Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas. And by the way, the running order running along the bottom is the current order in Q2 with 2 minutes to go. Ricciardo, Gasly, Kvyat, Albon and Perez have got to improve, as Roman Grosjean also has to improve to keep himself in the top 10. Opens the DRS and now starts his lap. Heads down to turn 1. Looking a bit aggressive on the bumps there, the Haas. 1, turn 2. Looks fine so far. There's a Mercedes out on track of Valtteri Bottas. He's probably just trying to, I don't know, practice some kind of something for Q3. Grosjean, half a second down on Charles Leclerc at the moment. Oh, he was on the absolute limit there. That is definitely what you expect from drivers in qualifying. Pushing on the absolute limit. As he now comes into turn 10, looks fine. Magnussen has not improved on his first sector, but it's still a pretty good first sector, I think.
Yeah, still quicker than Grosjean.
Yeah, so still good for K-Mag, and is in P4 at the moment. Roman now coming to the end of the middle sector and is 1 second off Leclerc's time. So this should put Grosjean, say P7, probably, on the grid at the moment. So, comes through the final corner. Understeer for Grosjean, that's not going to be good for him. But we'll have good straight line speed as he heads to the line. Yep, P7, exactly like I said. 1.2
Mystic
seconds.
Chazza.
1.2 seconds off Charles Leclerc. Kevin Magnussen is going to come to the line and not improve his time. Sergio Perez doesn't look to be doing a good enough lap time right now. Albon is so far improving to get out of the drop zone. But for Perez, by the looks of the car, you can see the steering wheel. He's working absolute arse off to try and get that car into the top 10. And he will not get into the top 10 because that racing point is terrible this weekend. Albon, P12, Perez at the moment, P14, Norris. Days P8. Sebastian Vettel will go second. Yep, there you go, 3/10 off. Kimi Raikkonen does not improve. He's at risk there. Pierre Gasly. That's an absolute shocker by Pierre Gasly. I'm sorry, that's an absolute shocker. Daniel Ricciardo's out in P11. Carlos Sainz P6. Where is Danny Kvyat? Don't know where, but here's Max Verstappen, who will improve his position from P7 and go up to... Oh, no, he won't improve. Or he improves his lap time, but doesn't improve his position. Where's Danny Kvyat? He on a lap or
I'm
not?
trying to have a look. I don't know. On the timing screens, it looks like...
Oh,
there he is. He's in the pits.
Right, so...
P15 for Danny Kvyat.
So Albon, again, out-qualifying Kvyat. That's another positive for Albon, but... Daniel Ricciardo out in P11, Albon P12, Perez P14, Kvyat P15. But the biggest surprise, Pierre Gasly P13. Look, in Australia, the team tossed him and put him in that position with the strategy they did, and they didn't see the track evolution coming. But P13 in a Red Bull, come on, that's terrible. That is absolutely horrific. And I know Max Verstappen, P7, maybe that's not where he wants to be. But Verstappen is almost half a second faster. He's been half a second faster for the entire weekend, at least. I'm sorry, Pierre Gasly, after last year's great performance, he has had an absolute shocker for the entire weekend. That is nowhere near good enough. Nib, what do you think about that performance? For me, that's a terrible performance.
Absolutely shocking, and with performances like that, it won't be long before Mr. Marco is putting some severe pressure on you. You can't be knocked out of qualifying 2 times in a row at this stage, or not even getting through to the top 10. Obviously the first race wasn't his fault, but still it is not good enough. And he didn't have a great race in Melbourne either. As we're seeing, you might see a little bit of a mistake here by Albon through the last corner.
Another one. He did it again.
He did it again, yeah. Lots of sparking, which he didn't have. But
yeah, Pierre Gasly terrible.
Not good.
Yeah. Well, he'll have to be aggressive tomorrow, because if he does not score points tomorrow, to be honest though, with the pace he has, not even guaranteed he will score points, because you've got Ricciardo there, who normally is better in the races than he is in qualifying. You've got Kimi there, who's always a great driver in races. And then you've got the Haas's. There's not a guarantee that he's actually going to score points. That's the thing with Gasly. He might not even score points. There's no guarantee he will do so. So for me, really looking worrying for him, and he's got to step it up, because that's just not going to cut it. And as you said, Nib, Helmut Marko will definitely be having a word with Pierre at the end of this session. If he continues to do that, he'll be having more... Well, he won't be having a word. He'll be dropped quite quickly, because that's not good enough. He should be a lot closer to Max be honest, even though we know Max is a demon driver. But the order, by the way, guys, running along the bottom of your screen right now is the finishing order in Q2. So out in Q2, Daniel Ricciardo, Alexander Albon, Pierre Gasly, Sergio Perez, and Danny Kvyat. Yeah, Gasly, very, very, very poor. And you can't say, oh, well, you know, traffic maybe here or there. He's been like it the whole weekend. Doesn't seem to have any confidence in his own driving, maybe, or in the Red Bull. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but he doesn't seem to have really any confidence at the moment. But now, the top 10 shootout will be starting in just a moment. Let me quickly post a different picture of Mercedes and Nib, if you don't mind, reading some comments in the chat again as we wait for Q.
Of course. Swag Nation 345 saying both McLarens in Q3. He's obviously very excited there that McLaren are back in Q3. That is usually that is certainly the theme of the comments at the moment, and indeed, I can't remember the last time we had two McLarens in Q3, and they look like they are currently even ahead of Renault in terms of the pecking order. It's quite remarkable. They look up there with Haas at the top of the midfield for McLaren. So certainly a very good start to the season for them. Tonka Toy Truck, as predicted, Renault does not make it past Q3. Yep, just struggling with outright pace at the moment on single lap. It's very interesting to see. Astro Stevo saying, well, I guess Danny Rick beat Hulkenberg this time, making it 1-1 for the inter-team quali battle. Small consolation, race tomorrow anyhow. Indeed, there is still a whole race distance to go which will be underway already this time tomorrow. Pedro Goldfinger saying, Gasly messing up and sounds lost when he talks about it. Yeah, I mean, I'm not. I didn't quite hear his reaction to his poor qualifying performance in Melbourne, but it's not good that that Gasly is struggling. Well, certainly for his sake. Swag Nation pointing out that Albon has outqualified Kvyat both times, and indeed he has, as you pointed out, as we see Charles Leclerc on our screen saying with the little graphic saying took pole and finished third on his Formula 2 debut in Bahrain 2017. And of course, if anyone actually watched that race, he was he led the race, did a second pit stop, and then won the race in 2017 in F2. It was quite a remarkable performance by Leclerc that weekend. Diablo Chrome saying Alonso should replace Gasly if changes his mind. I don't think Red Bull would be very keen on having Fernando Alonso in there. I
Or
think
with
him
Max
and
Verstappen.
with Mr. Horner, I think there'd be a lot of headbutting, not figuratively, literally. I think there would be some headbutting, as we see Fernando there just in the back of the McLaren garage. But we are about to go green for the start of Q3, as we can see a Haas is about to come out out of the pit lane, that of Roman Grosjean, who put in a good performance there to get P8 in Q2.
Vettel there in the pits. So, do you know what? One interesting thing is I'm not sure Max Verstappen's going to finish up P5 because he hasn't actually been best of the rest behind the two Ferraris and two Mercedes yet. It's been Kevin Magnussen. I have to say again, like the start of 2018, he is on it so well. He does actually, I'm going to say this, with his aggression and his speed at times, he kind of reminds me of an early Mika Hakkinen type. Nowhere near as good, of course. Hakkinen had absolutely unspeakable speed, especially in qualifying, but does kind of have Mika Hakkinen shades about him, Kevin Magnussen, and at the moment is looking to maybe cause an upset and maybe compete with Max Verstappen in qualifying and the race as well, and looking good for Haas. And hopefully they can get right up there as they're doing some work there to Max Verstappen's car. That doesn't look that good. Maybe he'll only go out for one run. I don't know, but that doesn't look that great for their Red Bull. As who is that? As Lewis Hamilton, Valtteri Bottas out in the Mercedes. Got this nice camera, guys, of the fin. So Hamilton, Bottas, Magnussen, Sainz, Grosjean, Norris, and Raikkonen are currently out on track. Here comes Charles Leclerc, number 16, looking for his first pole position in his career. And I have to say, so far through qualifying, Leclerc looks to be the quicker person. Vettel's made some errors. Leclerc looks like he's right there on speed with Vettel, if not ahead. So don't think it's just going to be a comfortable pole position for Vettel, even though Vettel should be quicker, because Leclerc's right there to get pole, as Lando Norris, the first driver to start a lap, and then it is Raikkonen, and then is pass of Grosjean, and then Kevin Magnussen, then Sainz, and then you've got the two Mercedes drivers, and then Charles Leclerc, who is in the second sector of the track. So, see what you can do. Vettel only going to do one run? Who knows?
I think he went to the toilet. I think we've seen a shot of him jumping out of his car, so I think Seb's gone to the toilet.
Well, that's a bit interesting. But here comes Valtteri Bottas on the pit straight and starts his first run in Q3. Did a great job in Australia. Can he do another great one here and qualify his teammate, though, this time? Lewis Hamilton. Here comes Valtteri Bottas. The second DRS activation point up to the end of the first sector. Turns in. Car looks very good. Not as good as the Ferrari, though. And 28-1 for the first sector. That's quite good. First sector there for Valtteri Bottas.
Same time as Kevin Magnussen, though, through the first sector.
Interesting. So here comes Bottas in turn 10. You have to get this so right. If you make a slight mistake here, it's going to ruin your tyres. As Lando Norris does a 29.8. I don't think that's that quick of a lap time, but saying that, Kimi Raikkonen has gone P2. Grosjean now goes fastest on a 29.5. Here comes Kevin Magnussen. A 28.7. 8 tenths of a second faster than Grosjean. Take that, Romain Grosjean. That's an incredible lap time. Carlos Sainz goes second. Bottas only 0.3 of a second faster than K-Mag on this lap. Leclerc has done the fastest first sector. Here comes
27.7.
Very good first sector by Leclerc. That's 4 tenths faster than Bottas. Here comes Bottas. Fastest, but only 0.4 of a second ahead of K-Mag. Fast looking quick with K-Mag at least. Lewis Hamilton, 10th and a half faster on a 28.1. But here comes Charles Leclerc. He hasn't done a purple middle sector, but it is faster than Lewis Hamilton. Good. Go fastest of all. Here he comes to the final corner, turns in, and that looked absolutely fine. And now will run to the line and surely take pole position. Provisionally, of course. Yes, he does. By 2.5 tenths of a second. He can definitely go quicker than that, though, I think. Sebastian still in the pits. So I think he will only go for one run in Q3, which is a bit surprising. And so will Max Verstappen. By the way, as Charles Leclerc has just done the exact same lap time, I think, as Sebastian Vettel did last year. Pole position. Yep, that is a 1:27.958 is pole position lap of last year, and Charles Leclerc has just done 1:27.958.
I just heard Crofty getting very excited about it.
But now they're all cruising back to the pits. and we'll go for another run as we have about 6 minutes to go in qualifying. So Leclerc ahead of Hamilton, Bottas, and then K-Mag in P4, Sainz, Grosjean, Norris, Raikkonen. I think Nib, because Kimi missed out all that track time in FP2, I think that's the reason he's down in, well, consistently at the back end of the top 10. But I have to say, considering they didn't have that much running, I think Kimi's doing quite a good job in the Alpha.
Indeed, he is. Of course, with very little running in FP2 in these sort of conditions yesterday, to still outperform the Toro Rossos, Pierre Gasly even. It's been certainly a very good weekend. With a compromised, lead up by Alfa Romeo and Kimi Raikkonen.
Absolutely has. I've seen a replay here of, I think, Hamilton going slightly wide, but I don't think he lost time doing that. Quickly update the order going into the final run of Q3 here in qualifying. By the way, if you're a Vettel or Ferrari fan, don't worry, Vettel has not gone 9th fastest, and he hasn't set a lap time yet in Q3, and neither has Max Verstappen. So they will be out on the track shortly, and yet they're bolting the tyres on Vettel's car. But one person who I think is set to be the driver of the day in qualifying is Kevin Magnussen. Been consistently the best of the rest in the midfield. And I don't think Max Verstappen is absolutely guaranteed to beat Magnussen qualifying. Because, I mean, look, there's a 7/10 of a second gap from Magnussen to Sainz. Max is going to have to do a great lap, I think, to get in between Bottas and Magnussen. And I did not think I'd be saying that here in Bahrain, as McLaren there goes out of the pit
Norris.
So McLaren, once Vettel and Verstappen do their times, McLaren could end up with a P7 and P9. Maybe a P7 and P8. We'll have to see. But here comes Norris, Kimi Raikkonen, Romain Grosjean, Carlos Sainz, Kevin Magnussen onto the circuit. Try quickly. Picture of Charles Leclerc up if I can, but Vettel still waiting to go out on track. I will say, does put more pressure on you if you only go for that one run, because if you don't get it right, as we saw, I think it was Suzuka last year. If you don't get it right, then yeah, it's going to be very, very tough mentally to cover. If you only have one opportunity to set the lap time that you need to, as Vettel is now finally on the track. Here come the two Mercedes drivers as well. Here is your current pole sitter, Charles Leclerc. Yep, he is fastest by 0.2 of a second, but Charles can definitely go faster.
Definitely. In the middle sector and the last, he can definitely improve.
Yeah, he can definitely improve. I think Lewis Hamilton, though, I will have to say, I think Lewis has done a great qualifying lap to start out with, to be that close anyway. But I will say again, I'm interested to see where the Haas of Kevin Magnussen up, because he has been super quick this weekend and seems to be the only one of the only consistently good midfield drivers this season, to be honest, as he is coming into the penultimate straight. Kimi Raikkonen has started his final lap, so has Lando Norris, and now Grosjean will. Then Sainz, then K-Mag, and then Vettel, then the two Mercedes, then Verstappen, and then Charles Leclerc will be the last person to cross the line. So here goes Sebastian Vettel. There is the O of Ferrari, Louis Camilleri, who, well, Ferrari have been saying that Vettel is our number one. Might not be number one at the end of this session. We'll have to see. As he now comes to the start of his lap, opens the DRS and heads down to turn one. Can Sebastian Vettel take his 4th pole position in Bahrain? Goes down to turn one. Car looks very, very quick, you have to say. It is the best thing out there, as now heads towards turn 4. Barking away down to turn 4. Let's see what it does. Turns in perfectly. That car does look on absolute rails. And he is half a tenth slower than Charles Leclerc in the first sector, but that is not the most important sector. The most important sector is the middle sector. Slightly wide on that corner, but I think it's more of a corner you want to go wide in to get a better exit. As turn 10 looks fine. By the way, Kimi Raikkonen has gone P5, but that will probably be beaten. Norris
Grosjean goes
slower.
5th.
Grosjean has gone 5th. As Sebastian Vettel into now the middle sector. Carlos Sainz goes P5. Vettel a 10th down on Leclerc and goes a bit wide.
Leclerc has just set a purple first sector.
I think Vettel is going to end up P2 here unless he blows it the final corner. And let's see. He tries as hard as he could, but he is going to go, I think, into P2. Yes, he does by 0.2 of a second, but Lewis Hamilton could beat that. No, he can't, because Lewis Hamilton is not improved on his lap. Lewis Hamilton, well, he had a chance to beat Vettel on this lap, but I don't think he is going to. Here is Bottas. Stays P4, does improve his lap time. Hamilton is not going to improve when really I think he's cost himself there a chance of P2. And Hamilton 3rd, and Charles Leclerc is going to get pole position. His first ever pole position for the Monegasque driver. He is still on his lap, comes into the final corner, and will come to the line. Will he go faster? And yes, he does by a 10th. Charles Leclerc on pole by a 1/3 of a second from Sebastian Vettel. And a new track record, a 1:27.866. Vettel 2nd, Hamilton 3rd, Bottas 4th. Verstappen did go 5th, but only by 0.05 of a second from Kevin Magnussen 6th. Carlos Sainz P7, Grosjean 8th, Raikkonen 9th, Norris 10th. There you go. That is qualifying for the 2019 Bahrain Grand Prix. And as we said, the gap would be closer between the top 2 teams in qualifying. It was, and it was about right as what I was saying, about 1/4 of a second to 0.3 of a second. But it's not the driver on pole that I thought it would be. Charles Leclerc is first pole, and I believe that is the youngest driver in the history of Ferrari to get pole position for them. I believe so.
Yes,
Great job
and
there for Charles.
the second youngest Formula One driver ever to take pole position, behind, of course, his teammate, Sebastian Vettel.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic there by Leclerc. 12 months ago, he was in a lowly Sauber, getting knocked out in Q1, making some silly rookie mistakes. 1 year on, he's driving for the biggest and, well, so far at the moment, the best team in Formula One this weekend, and is on pole position, the best place, of course, to start from. But I'll quickly update the order. This is Vettel at the penultimate corner. I don't think he necessarily lost time. I think he was just trying as hard as possible to bring the lap time back. And here's Lewis Hamilton.
Exit turn 4, running wide.
I'm going to say, I think if Lewis Hamilton really nailed that final lap, I think Hamilton could have got ahead of Sebastian Vettel there. Because Vettel was only 0.03 of a second ahead of Hamilton. So I think Hamilton and also Bottas have missed an opportunity there to get ahead of Vettel. So Vettel, I think they're getting away with it, but is on the front row with Charles Leclerc. But I'll let you quickly read out the chat, and then we'll start reading the chat for the next 20 minutes.
Indeed, we will. Everyone just going on about, obviously, Charles Leclerc taking pole. We've got Nicholas saying Ferrari on top. Boom, boom, boom. Everyone's going boom. Tonka Toy Truck saying, come on, Charles, out qualifies Vettel. Yahoo! Ultra bad 60-second front row lockout now for Ferrari, and I think they did tie Williams and McLaren with that. I think they had a little infographic at the bottom of the screen there. Interesting to point out that thank you Swag Nation for this, that Magnussen was only 5 thousandths off Max Verstappen. So very, very close there between the Haas and the Red Bull driver. Verstappen able to sneak into P5. Legion saying Leclerc the one and only who. I'm thinking I assume that he's meant to go a woo instead of a who. Diego Pino, what happened to Gasly? He was just slow all weekend and was knocked out in Q2 in P13. Had no pace really at all the whole entire weekend. Sebastian in the chat is happy that Leclerc and Vettel have taken the front row lockout, as we're seeing Charles Leclerc now speak to Paul di Resta. But everyone seemingly very happy, well, at least who's commenting, that Ferrari have locked out the front row of the grid.
Yep, and well, if you are a Ferrari fan, you should be very happy. I'm going to put this in the top left so people know that qualifying is over. So Q3 final. Qualifying is over. If you just joined us, Charles Leclerc is on pole position from Sebastian Vettel second. Lewis Hamilton is third from Valtteri Bottas and P4. Then fifth is Verstappen, only just ahead of Kevin Magnussen in sixth. And then Carlos Sainz is P6. Or P7, sorry. Then it is Romain Grosjean in P8. Then Raikkonen P9. Norris, slightly disappointing in P10, but he got into the top 10. That's a plus, I think, for him. Ricciardo P11. Renault not looking good. Albon 12th. Gasly 13th. A terrible performance all weekend from Pierre Gasly. 14th Perez. 15th Kvyat. 16th is Antonio Giovinazzi. 17th is Nico Hülkenberg. 18th is Lance Stroll. And then at the back, of course, the two Williamses of George Russell and Robert Kubica. So those are the results for qualifying 2019 Bahrain Grand Prix. And I just need to say, guys, don't forget to subscribe. 2 videos coming. Later on at 7 p.m. UK time, I will be doing a qualifying review of what has happened in qualifying here in Bahrain. So don't forget to subscribe to that. And also for the race watch along tomorrow at 10 past 3 p.m. UK time. Of course, the race starts in the UK at 10 past 4 p.m. UK time. So make sure to subscribe for that content. Bottom right of the screen, you can click subscribe right there, or click on my channel name, go to the channel page and subscribe and hit the notifications bell for that content coming later on tonight and also tomorrow afternoon. But what we're going to do now for the next 20 minutes, or 15 to 20 minutes, we are going to read out what you guys, what your reaction is to what has happened in qualifying. So let us know what you thought of what happened in qualifying right now in the live chat and the comment section, and I'll try to reply to or read out as many comments as I possibly can. Try and do so at the moment. Mafia says, how far is Williams over or under 4 seconds? I can look. It's not going to be looking good, team. But yeah, they are at the back. In Q2, they were, how far off were they in Q2? About 3.7 seconds off. They were. So they're about just under 4 seconds off pole position. Here is Bahrain. Here comes the red car. I don't think. Comment now. I don't think a Ferrari pole. Merc have been sandbagging. Kimi got the most podiums on the circuit without winning it. I think the chat for me is coming through a bit late. Alessio saying go Leclerc. Seeing plenty of support for Charles Leclerc. Yeah, first pole for Charles. Yeah, the chat's now coming through a bit later for me than it was for you. I haven't looked at it massively during this. To be honest, I wanted Bottas on top of Lewis, says someone. It's surprising that Bottas was not that great at the end of qualifying, and I think both Mercedes drivers will be a bit disappointed they couldn't get past Vettel. I think he was there for the taking. So I think they'll be disappointed in what they did at the end. Electro Knights says, and I know this person, Electro Knights, is a big Charles Leclerc fan. He says Charles did well on Saturday, time for him to do good on Sunday. Indeed. Can he do good on Sunday? He should. I don't think there's any reason for him to be slow, really. I mean, he has the best car this weekend. Tends actually to be better in the races as in qualifying. So he should be just as good, if not better, in the race. One thing Ferrari have to make sure they do is maintain a 1-2 at the end of the first lap, because they don't want those two Mercedes drivers getting in there and affecting their race. But I think Mercedes will be right there in the race as well. I don't think they'll be that far off at the end of the Grand Prix if they don't win. I think it is going to be a battle between those two teams to win the race. I think Mercedes can definitely win the race, especially looked at the race pace comparisons from yesterday. Crystal Racing says he's got a feeling the Ferraris will make contact at turn 1 tomorrow. Hopefully not, because it's been such a great weekend. The last thing they need is contact in 1. Boy Truck, I'm happy I got to watch Charles out-qualify Vettel, the writing wall. Francisco says, just an amazing qualifying. Indeed it was.
I think you might have been a bit more excited whilst typing that than you just read it out.
I know he's a big Kimi Raikkonen fan, but for Kimi, I think Kimi did pretty well considering the issues Alfa Romeo have had. Not amazingly, but I think well enough. I mean, he qualified P9. That's the same position he qualified at Albert Park. He should be able to score, say, a P8 or a P7, maybe, if there are retirements ahead with that car. So I think Kimi's looking pretty good for the race. He's always better in the races than he is in qualifying. So I think he will have a good Bahrain Grand Prix. Problem with Ferrari, says Sebastian. The problem with Ferrari is that one of the drivers gets overtaken at the start and never gets back, but Vettel is good at starts, so hope they lead a 1-2 on lap 1. I think they have to. They are to win the race. Ferrari have to have a 1-2 at the end of the first lap. Because the reason last year Ferrari almost lost the race because Bottas got ahead of Raikkonen closer to Vettel during the entire Grand Prix than he really should have. So Ferrari have got to make sure they keep it as a 1-2 in whatever order at the end of the first lap, and then try to pull a gap to the Mercedes drivers. One team also, looking at the times and the order, I'm gonna have to say I'm a bit disappointed by, is Red Bull. They aren't as close as I thought they would be in qualifying. I thought they would be on the third row. Well, with definitely one car, but pace-wise, I thought they'd be a bit, or lap time-wise, I thought they'd be a bit closer to Mercedes than half a second. I thought maybe quarter of a second, more so than half a second. But yeah, I'm a bit disappointed by Red Bull's qualifying speed, but they should be better in the race. They always are better in the race. Max, I think, is still a possible person to get on the podium. I don't think it's possible for him to up off the podium. Astro Steve says down the volume and audio over here is dodgy. Again, on my end, the audio is absolutely fine. It's probably an issue with the website. Nothing I can do, of course. Yeah, it looks absolutely fine. My end, everything's coming through a-okay. So sorry if that's the case, but on my end, it's absolutely fine. Simon Cragland says, really disappointed, really disappointing, rather, qualifying by Red Bull. Sebastian Vettel only had one lap, so he couldn't go as fast, or he could have done a mistake. He would have been closer to Leclerc if he had 2 laps. Maybe, yeah, maybe, but we don't know. Nib, I don't know what happened. Maybe Vettel did pop off quickly to the toilet or something like that, but do you think it was a mistake for Vettel to only do one qualifying lap?
He may have potentially only had one set of the soft tire left because, of course, he had to do a second run in Q2 after he locked up. So that potentially also might have been why he didn't do 2 runs in the session.
Yeah, maybe, but I think, as I said at the time, it puts a lot of pressure on you to go out and, do the lap that you're expected to do. And I think Vettel, if he did have another set of tyres, maybe could do another run, I think Vettel would have been closer to Leclerc. I don't think he would have beat Leclerc. I think Leclerc definitely was the faster driver in qualifying today. I think Charles Leclerc was fastest in all of the session on Q2 and Q3. So I think Charles was the faster driver, but I think Sebastian with an extra run would have been closer to Charles than he was in reality. But I will say as well, as I think we were expecting, once we got to Q3, Mercedes were a lot closer to Ferrari, and that's because they were saving their qualifying party mode, whatever you want to call it, till the very end. Because I think we said 2.5 to 3 tenths of a second is where they're going to be speed-wise compared to Ferrari or away from Ferrari, and that's where they were. Driver of the day, Leclerc, worst disappointment. Joe Hulkenberg says B. Bastian says Vettel only had one set of softs left. Okay. Mo Khan says the result was good. Charles is a refreshing pole sitter. That's another thing. It is nice to see a different person on pole position. And usually it's Vettel and Hamilton constantly. But yeah, it is nice to see.
And just on that, he becomes F1's 99th pole sitter in our 999th race. I just seen F1 tweet that out, so that's a nice little thing there.
Nice little stat there. Of course, the 999th race, and the next race in Shanghai is race 1000, and I have content planned for that, but that won't be coming out, of course, until the week of the Shanghai Grand Prix in a couple of weeks' time. But I just want to show this. Then, other than that, these couple things. This is the final order of qualifying. Again, I'll read it out. Leclerc fastest, Vettel second, Hamilton third, Bottas fourth, and then Verstappen, Magnussen, Sainz, Grosjean, Raikkonen, Norris, Ricciardo, Albon, Gasly, Perez, Kvyat, Giovinazzi, Hulkenberg, Stroll, Russell, and Kubica. By the way, one thing I did notice, because I went back and looked before the weekend and looked at the qualifying gaps between the teams, say 2018 between certain teams, and now we can see the difference. One thing, and this was also I think the case in Australia, Haas are half a second closer to the top of the field than they were in 2018. In 2018 in Bahrain, they were 1.3 seconds off pole, and now they're 0.8 of a second off pole. So that does show that team has made a lot of progress towards the top. And once we get to a track like, say, Austria, where they weren't that far off pole position there, I think only 6 or 7 tenths of a second, You never know. Haas could end up on a second row of the grid pretty soon. They have very good speed, and Kevin Magnussen, if he did improve on his final run, probably would have beat Verstappen today. I think Haas had the faster car in qualifying trim today. Haas have made a lot of progress, but another team that has also is McLaren. McLaren, I think, were almost 2 seconds off pole last year, and this year they're within a second. So it shows you McLaren have made progress, Haas have made progress, Alfa Romeo have made progress. Renault are about the same, if not slightly slower. Their gap to pole than it was last year at the same track. Toro Rosso slower than they were this time last year at the same track. Racing Point slower. So the teams at the moment looking really good are Haas, McLaren, and Alfa Romeo with Kimi Raikkonen. And then the teams not looking great at the moment, you have to say, or maybe not doing as well as they should be, Renault, Toro Rosso, and Racing Point. There you go. That is the order for qualifying, and that's the grid for tomorrow's race. And I believe, let me just look now. And yes, indeed, Charles Leclerc was fastest in Q1, Q2, and Q3. So Charles basically dominated qualifying. But I think the next, I don't know, maybe 15 minutes, I don't know, we'll read out some more comments and see what you guys have to say reacting to what's happened in qualifying today. Mo Khan, third row is very Viking-like. Simon Cragland says, I think Red Bull was quicker than Haas today. Magnussen just had a very good lap in Q3 that was very hard to improve upon. Maybe you're right. I think in the race, Red Bull will be better because Red Bull always are better in the races, and Haas tend to be worse in the races compared to where they are in qualifying. So I think Haas will be. They should have the best car in the midfield, but I don't think it'll be absolutely, miles ahead of the McLarens and Kimi Raikkonen. They'll still be close at battle.
Just touching on Red Bull's issues so far this weekend. They've been really struggling on the soft compound of tyre this weekend. But when you look at their times on the mediums and especially on the long runs yesterday, they looked very quick to the top three teams. So as you have mentioned, I think once we see them get off that tyre, off the soft tyre and onto the medium tyre, presumably in the race, if that indeed is what happens, I think that we will see Red Bull quite quick in the end.
So the race strategy is going to be interesting. I predicted in practice too, and I still think this is the case for most teams. Anyone starting on the soft is going to go from the soft tyre, I think, to the hard tyre, say Ferrari and Mercedes. But because Red Bull tend to look after the softer compounds better than other teams, I think they will try to take the soft tyre longer and then put the medium on and pit, say, 7 to 10 laps later than Ferrari and Mercedes and try and get onto the podium that way. I think that's what they're going to try and do with Verstappen, with Gasly. Strategy for me is simple. Start on the medium and then see how far you get into the race. And then if you can go onto the soft at the end, then do so. But preferably medium to hard. I think that's going to be the best strategy for tomorrow's race is medium tyre, a hard tyre, and I expect everyone, Daniel Ricciardo down, start on either the medium or the hard compound tyre, and then either go to the medium if they're on the hard, or go to the hard if they're on the medium. The soft tyre is not a good race tyre. You want to get that tyre off your car very quickly. The top teams, because of the gap they'll pull to the midfield, they're going to probably hit, say, around lap 15 and then put the hard tyre on and take it to the end. But maybe Verstappen, if he wants to get onto the podium to do something different, I think maybe what they can do is, again, take the soft tyre longer, like they did in Melbourne, then pit for the medium, and and then absolutely go for it and try and get a podium. I think that's the best strategy for Red Bull. But for Gasly, preferably start on the medium and then go on to the hard tyre. And that should be a good strategy for the race. But I think the drivers like Norris, Sainz, and even Kimi Raikkonen, even though I think Raikkonen will have good race pace, because of the tyre they're starting on, they're going to be under threat from people like Ricciardo and Gasly, because the soft tyre will degrade quite quickly on Grand Prix. Astro Stevo has Bottas saved. No, he has not. JB says, I'm hoping Grosjean doesn't get penalised for impeding Norris. He won't. He definitely won't, because Norris made it through to Q2 and made it into Q3. So he won't get penalised. There's absolutely no chance he'll get penalised. I'd be stupid, because he didn't actually cost Norris a position in qualifying. He only cost him, his first run in Q1. Yeah, in Q1. So, a stupid penalty. Is there anything else in the field that you want to highlight? Say the McLarens, or maybe someone who's been especially poor?
Well, I think it's very interesting to see that Alexander Albon did out-qualify Pierre Gasly, and of course, Albon in the Toro Rosso out-qualifying the Red Bull, but really weird. I think Red Bull was probably the fourth fastest car today. I do believe that the Haas was quicker than them in the qualifying session. I think just a very special lap by Max in the end got him just ahead by 5 thousandths of a second ahead of Kevin Magnussen. So Red Bull really struggling, but a massive shout out to McLaren compared to where they were this time last season, and especially at the end of last season. They have improved absolutely massively. They're a completely different team. The car is performing so much better. The aero, the chassis, and most importantly, I believe, is that the Renault engine has really taken a leap forward. I think we can pretty much confirm this, that there isn't actually too much that separates all four of the engine manufacturers now.
Good thing.
Which is really good, and as you just said, it is a very good thing, and and it always would have happened. It's just taken a little bit longer because the technology is just what's it called? What's the word I'm looking for?
Expensive.
E- Expensive, and just very, I can't think of the word, but it's good to see that the engines are now started getting equalized. That's certainly good for the sport. But yeah, massive shout out to McLaren. But Renault, once again, poor. Of course, their engine has improved, but it looks like their car was pretty good, and probably aero and chassis wise one of the better in the midfield. But they have just not really picked the ball and ran with it. They've finally got the engine into a good position, looks quick, and they haven't been able to capitalize on a good car at the moment. And they did bring upgrades, I believe, for this race. So not a good weekend for Renault, but with Ricardo starting in P11, that could be good. That is for sure. But I just want to read out a comment that I've seen in the chat, which made me laugh. It was by Mo Khan saying, "Daddy dear couldn't buy speed to little Stroll air." So I thought that was quite funny. Typical Lance Stroll jokes. Poor guy, but he was very good in the last race after a disappointing qualifying. So who knows? The race is a long one, and we could see Lance Stroll once again up towards the top of, or up towards the bottom of the points tomorrow. But yeah, I think that's about it from me in terms of the qualifying session, but certainly a very enjoyable one.
Yeah, it was. We had plenty of surprises, plenty of different cars up there, which is good. But I have to say, McLaren half. Let me just look. Yep, half a second faster than Renault with their fastest car compared to Daniel Ricciardo. That is terrible for Renault. to be outperformed by McLaren. Now, historically, of course, McLaren have always been a more successful team than Renault whenever they've been a works team and Enstone team. But, I mean, as you said, the Renault power unit has made progress, but McLaren chassis seems to be a lot better right now than the Renault. So they've got to step it up, Renault. I think Shanghai will be a good indication as to Renault's weaknesses, whether it is the chassis or just the balance of the car around this track. We'll see in Shanghai, because Shanghai is the most aerodynamically efficient track we go to before we get to the European season starting in Spain. So if they're even worse in Shanghai, then we know what the issue is. It's aerodynamics or the chassis of the car instead of the power unit. Because even though I expected them to be worse in Bahrain, things weren't looking too bad for them in practice, but as I read out in the build-up, drivers were not happy with the balance of their car. So, well, there you go for Renault. Read out some more comments, guys. And Tonka Toy Truck says, so the McLaren chassis better than the Renault's. By the looks of it, yeah. I did not see that coming. And from what I saw at testing, McLaren did not look to have a better car or better grip than the Renault when I was at testing. Renault looked to be probably, in terms of grip, 2 to 3 tenths of a second better than the McLaren during testing, but something's happened. Some kind of, either McLaren have got a really good upgrade on the car, or something, from testing to the first race and then the second race has happened for Renault to drop back, because they are definitely slower than we expected them. We thought they'd be in, at worst, McLaren's position in qualifying today in Bahrain. You asked me a month and a half ago. So yeah, it's very, very disappointing. But I'm not gonna say what the issue is with Renault until Shanghai, because if it is aero or chassis, then you will see that problem occur at Shanghai, because you do need a good car aerodynamically to be good at that track. No doubt about it. Darren says, disaster for Renault. Feel sorry for Daniel Ricciardo's career now. If he waited a few weeks, he could have taken the Ferrari seat with Kimi moving to Alfa Romeo. No, he wouldn't have gone to Ferrari, because I think they were always going to go to Charles Leclerc, because, of course, he's a part of the system. And Leclerc, his potential or his ceiling is higher than Daniel Ricciardo's, I think. Of course, Charles does have to show that he can be, say, maybe a world champion or a serial race winner, but his ceiling is higher than Daniel Ricciardo's, and also Ricciardo is 29, 30 years old. Charles is 21, so understandable thing. Mokan, if the Renault engine improves, which it has, it brings back 2 icons back into the reckoning McLaren and Renault. Well, it's not bringing Renault any closer. It's actually, Renault are worse than they were this time last year. They are worse. Because I think on the grid last year, Renault qualified P7 and P10, I think, or P8 and P10. Today, P11 and P17. That is right. I'm gonna read. Hello to Alejandro Barbosa. Cat. Hi, Chaz. Spider Monkey. What is your prediction about tomorrow's midfield race pace? Haas should have enough of a car with Kevin Magnussen to finish best of the rest. Then I'm probably going to say McLaren. Then after that, maybe Toro Rosso. They were pretty good in the race simulator Friday. And then after that, who else have you got? Raikkonen, he tends to be good, but he doesn't have the data because Alfa Romeo not do any race simulation yesterday, so they may struggle. Who else have you got in there? Racing Point, they'll be better. They're always better in the races. Renault, they'll be better. They are also always better in the races. I think Ricardo will finish in the points, but I don't think it'll be a great points finish. Say 9th or 10th. I don't see it 7. But one thing that I think it pretty much confirms. I know one race, but pretty much confirms that Pierre Gasly was never an upgrade on Daniel Ricciardo. Ricciardo outqualifies Pierre Gasly by a 10th of a second, or not 10th of a second, about 300ths of a second, in a car that is about 3/4 of a second slower than the Red Bull at this track. I don't think I need to say any more. I think you guys can, come up with your own assumptions, but Ricciardo is better than Gasly. I don't think anyone was in any doubt of that. I think that qualifying session has proved that Gasly has way off the pace this weekend. And also, you said, Nib, didn't you, Albon, out qualifying Gasly. If Gasly is dropped, I'm not going to get into that right now because I think it is unfair to talk about it right now. But if he gets dropped and they don't go for Kvyat, they can only really go for Albon. If they don't want Kvyat back in that car. But if Gasly is dropped, I think they would put Kvyat in the car because they know Kvyat, they know what he's like and what he requires from a car and all that stuff. With Albon, they're still kind of new to Alexander Albon.
I'm not even going to entertain that discussion.
There you go. I'm not going to even really get into it, but, if it did happen, if Gasly was dropped, then I think they would replace him with Kvyat. But we should not be talking about that right now because we need to wait and see how he gets on in later races. If he's still doing this by Monaco, then I will say he needs to be dropped because if he's still miles off Verstappen's pace and not qualifying anywhere near where he needs to be and still getting knocked out in Q2 or Q1, then yeah, he needs to be dropped. If he's still doing it in the lead up and at the Monaco Grand Prix. But let's wait. I will say it's a bit of a surprise that he's not been good this week. Because of course, I think he won here in GP2. And then last year, of course, he finished in P4 in a Toro Rosso. But this year, P13 in qualifying. Very, very weird performance. JB, I think Gasly should get into top 6 as he's often better in the race, and Red Bull is better in the race. He should score points, but I don't think it's a guarantee that he will because again, you got the Haas's who are quick, Kimi Raikkonen who's quick, Daniel Ricciardo. This is the one thing I like about the midfield is you don't have any pushovers anymore in the midfield because Gasly now, even though he will have a better car, overtaking Daniel Ricciardo or Kimi Raikkonen is not the easiest thing in the world because they will give him a hard time. And then obviously K-Mag and Grosjean, very, very aggressive racing drivers. They will not give him an inch or anything on track. And then you've got, Norris in there who of course wants to press and is very quick. Carlos Sainz. And by the way, obviously Carlos Sainz was an apparent contender for the seat at Red Bull. And he's outqualified Gasly in a McLaren by 0.7 of a second. I want to make that point.
Shots fired.
But, he should have the car to score points, but it's not going to be just throw it down the inside at turn 1 every lap and he's going to get past. He is going to have a tough race to get points. I think he will, but it won't be P7 or P6. It'll be more P9, P10, honestly. And of course, obviously the start. Maybe he'll get hit at the start. We don't know. Being in that position on the grid could be trouble for him. Um, yeah. Right. I'll read out a couple more comments and then I'll come to the end of the stream because I need to go set up the qualifying review. Moment. Astro Stevo, huge gap between Kimi and Giovinazzi. 2. Yep.
A second.
Second. I've made it pretty clear what I thought of Giovinazzi, so I'm not going to. But that gap is about right for what it's been this weekend. Kimi has been much faster than Giovinazzi, and Giovinazzi has actually been normally around P18. So at least he's not that bad, but still, pace-wise, Giovinazzi has absolutely no chance of scoring points. Honestly, I think Hulkenberg behind him and even Stroll have a better chance of points than him because Giovinazzi's underperforming so much in a car that, as you can see with Kimi Räikkönen, good enough to be in the top 10. So I think Giovinazzi is going to have another race where he's spawning around in the midfield, P13, something like that. Astro Stevo, what happened to Bottas? Nothing really, just didn't get the lap. Absolutely nailed there at the end. I think, again, as I'll get onto the qualifying review, I think Mercedes could have done better in qualifying at the end there. But it seemed as though the grip of the track fell away because there was plenty of people that did not improve their final runs. And if they did improve, it was only just. So, not that much grip at the end of the session there. Francisco says, I think Kimi's outperforming the pace of the car. No, I don't think that's the case. I think if Kimi had, say, K-Mag as his teammate, I think Kimi and K-Mag would be, say, P8, P9, consistent. Giovinazzi does not represent the pace of that car. The Alfa Romeo is not slower than the Renault, in my opinion. They have a faster car when it comes to Renault. Well, look at Perez in the Racing Point, faster. I don't think the Racing Point faster than the Alfa. Racing Point to me looks to be the closest car to the Williams, pace-wise. They've really struggled this weekend. And right, I'll find one final comment and then we'll come to the end of the stream. Nick Dubbin, what happened to Williams? I think you know what happened to Williams. And the last comment I'll end on is Switcher Train. Why do Renault suck so much? I think it is to do with the balance of the car. I don't think the balance of the car is where they want it to be, and I think it's a bit of a hard car to drive. They look as though they've improved the power unit by quite a bit, but I don't think aerodynamically the car really is that competitive or as competitive as they would have wanted it to be for this time of the season. So I think they are struggling aerodynamically with this car. But that is the end of the 2019 Bahrain Grand Prix qualifying watch along. Don't forget to join us again at 7 p.m. UK time for the qualifying review. And I just want to say, like I said yesterday, big thank you to Nib for coming along and helping me out on the watch along, and keeping up to date with all the times and all the sector times and helping me out that way, and also enjoying qualifying. Yep. Thanks for coming along as usual, mate.
Indeed, mate. Thanks for having me on. I always enjoy myself, and of course, thank you to everyone in the chat for your comments, and just for us to have things to talk about. That always helps. So, massive thanks to that. I don't think I'll be on the stream tomorrow. So I hope everyone enjoys the race tomorrow, and I hope you all have a great day, and I'll catch you later.
Yep, thanks Nib for coming along and being a part of it. And yep, unfortunately, Nib won't be a part of the race watch along tomorrow. But when it comes to race watch alongs, he will hopefully be a part of the Chinese Grand Prix one in 2 time. But guys, again, I will be live at 7 p.m. UK time for the review of qualifying for about an hour, talking about what's happened and showing quotes from the drivers and seeing what they think of what happened. And doing more of a detailed review instead of a reaction of what happened in qualifying. But yep, thanks for coming along. And also, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this, as I will be doing the race watch along tomorrow at 3:10 or 10 past 3 p.m. UK time for the race, which starts, of course, at 10 past 4 p.m. UK time tomorrow. So don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there by clicking subscribe, or click on my channel name, go to the channel page, subscribe, and hit the notifications bell so you're notified as to when I go live or upload a video. Like this video, comment down below what you thought of this video and what you thought of qualifying and some of the performances in qualifying. Also, don't forget to join our Discord server. That's the best place for notifications best place for notifications for my videos, and also that is the hardcore part of the Chazza HDF1 community where, you know, more of us interact. So if you want to join that, link below in the description. Also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Chaz6110 and check out my website chazzahd.com for more content like this. But guys, until the review of qualifying later tonight at 7 p.m. UK time, and until the race watch along tomorrow at 10 past 3 UK time, it has been me, Chazza HD. Bye.